Like, it's just Judaism in and of itself is the most debate-lord religion of all time. 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Obviously, the notion that all Jews are monolithic in their approach to Judaism, all Jews are monolithic in their understanding of Israel could not be far from the truth. And, you know, very, very frustrating that people present it as such. Wouldn't that be like saying all Christians are the same? Yes. But even more so, especially inside of Judaism, a big part of like the analysis of the Talmud literally revolves around debating it. Debate is literally baked into not just the Jewish culture in general, but like baked into the religion. They're OG debate lords in general.
But nobody can say that what we are presenting is new. We are presenting traditional Judaism. People might today, for one reason or another, choose something else, which is the choice of the individual, which I discourage.
See? Debate lord, bro. Do you understand me? Is in a permanent state of debate. He's like, listen, you could disagree with me. I discourage it, but you could disagree with me nonetheless. I'm telling you, dude, it's the most debate lord religion out there, straight up. It's also very fun. It's like Mormonism in the way that you have so many different like loopholes and
yeah. So wait, which side are you on? This side or the other side?
On the other side, on the wrong side.
You're on the other side and the wrong side?
We're on the side that doesn't rape women.
This side, okay.
We're on the side that doesn't rape women. Bro, you're wearing a IDF jersey. Weird.
Fat Am, you think they would take me? They would never take me.
No, yeah.
The IDF guys are like, come on,
Yeah.
they're like buff.
Yeah.
Camera guys laugh.
Yeah. They don't
Oh my God, he said they would never take me. The IDF guys are buff. Oh my God.
If I want to dance with you and you don't want to reciprocate,
You don't want to
How are we gonna dance?
He doesn't wanna dance.
but listen.
The Palestinian people, they don't want to dance.
But listen,
you
I've
know what
read-
they want? They want blood, Jewish blood on their hands.
Let's just take that aside. I've read the truth about Camp David. I've read about the Camp David Accords. Oslo. I've read about all these.
It's more
I've
than
tried
just the
to.
Camp David Accords.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
recently, you have the Abraham Accords. You have so much. You have.
My man said Abraham Accords. That's all you need to know. He said, oh, Camp David. Well, what about the Abraham Accords? It's like, bro, the Abraham Accords does not feature Palestinians. Like, it was not done with any envoy or Palestinian representation.
For national security reasons, we should take Reza, we should take West Bank, and they need to go. Otherwise, we're never going to be safe. Or you have the side that's like, you know what? Give them their own state as long as they're not trying to kill us.
Okay, so
Bro, even this like the way he's asking this question is like so deliberately. He's asking that in the kindest way to invoke like I would say it's going above and beyond. Oh, as long as like, would you give the Palestinians their own state as long as they did like promise not to kill the Israelis? Like he is trying so hard to get him to agree with him. Like the generous way to frame this. Let's see what they respond with.
I would love to support a two-state solution, but currently, if you have a leading government, okay, i.e. Hamas, as they have brought them to power in 2005, and in Hamas's charter, it clearly states to kill all the Jewish people, how can you promote a peace and a two-state solution? In my mind, I don't think it's gonna fly.
This is such projection, dude. They don't hate Jews. They hate Israel. Sometimes also Jews, because Israel says that they're killing their families for Judaism. It's Israel that they hate. And they don't learn to hate Israel at school. They learn to hate Israel when the school is blown up. Also, oh my God, that's such a good point. It is crazy to make this argument outside of an auction of West Bank homes. Oh my God. I forgot that they're literally having this conversation at a real estate auction of Palestinian homes in historic Palestinian land that Israel is currently unjustifiably and illegally occupying, and American Jews basically looking at that as cheap real estate that they're going to purchase. This is exactly what I mean when I say the average Zionist doesn't know what Zionism is. The myth of Palestinians and Arabs will always hate us, so there's nothing we can do is so strong. You don't even have to define to yourself what Zionism is beyond Israel good, Jewish state good, and what its consequences are. Oh yeah, maybe that's why he's saying my neighbor would be Palestinian. He's like, I can't wait to go settle in the West Bank. My neighbor will be Palestinian Arab. I will have taken his uncle's home.
And then when you're talking about the West Bank, okay, Jews lived in the West Bank. And you have so much proof from the Torah, even from the Bible. Where was Jesus born? Jesus was a Jew. But apparently on TikTok, apparently on Instagram, Jesus was Palestinian. Yeah. Jesus was a Jew born in Nazareth.
Bro, it's always like they were asking for it. They were begging for it. This guy looks Arab North African. Crazy, really? No, it's not crazy at all. It's not even remotely crazy. That's why I always say the notion that like Judaism is an ethno-religion that contains other ethnicities outside of like Eastern European under it. Eastern European Jews and Western European Jews are Ashkenazi Jews, whereas Mizrahi sects of Jews are literally Arab Jews, and even some Sephardi Jews are also Arab Jews. But if you have a conversation with a Zionist person in Israel, they literally cannot comprehend what you're saying. They're like, what? No. Like, they think you're dissing them when you say Itamar Ben-Gvir is literally of Arab descent. They go, no, he's not. He's Jew. Why would you say that he's Arab? It's like, bro, he's from Iraq. They think I'm insulting the person by lowering their status. When I say someone is of Arab background, when I say someone is Jewish, of Arab descent, of Arab background, they think I am lowering their status. This dude is the same. If he didn't have a kippah on, NYPD would be beating his ass because they'd be like, all right, Mohammed, he is more MENA than I am. On a lineup, if you ask a racist NYPD police officer whose skull needs to be cracked, they crack his skull before mine. They'd be like, nope, that's the Muslim right there. A lot of the Persian Jews that I know out here in Los Angeles, this is the largest Persian Jewish diaspora on the planet, they've all been brutalized in different ways because they are suspected of being Iranian Muslim. And yet they are some of the biggest dick riders of Israel.
Is it the Israeli government or Hamas?
Hamas doesn't run the West Bank.
Hamas runs Gaza. I'm not talking about the West Bank.
But what about the West Bank?
Well,
then?
the Palestinian Authority has most control of the West Bank.
You know, like if we can acknowledge what that is and say like, all right, that shouldn't
Have you
be.
seen videos?
Technically, all Muslims are of Jewish descent. Yes. I wouldn't say all, but most. I mean, it literally is it's an Abrahamic religion. All of the Palestinians that remained in that area that converted to Christianity and then later on converted to Islam are literally direct descendants. Those motherfuckers are the direct descendants. Those living in Gaza right now are descendants of the early Jewish population. They first converted to Christianity and then later converted to Islam.
Whenever you refer to a prison, you're talking about people who live in poverty. So where is the poverty?
Reza, they don't.
Where's the poverty?
There's a ton of poverty there.
Bro said, where's the poverty in Gaza? This is what I mean when I say it's so disingenuous and so monstrous to use Palestinian resilience against them. We're talking about a place where like there's like before October 7th, there's like 56% unemployment. Most of the population is underage. Literally, majority of the population is underage. People literally working for like $1 a day, extreme poverty conditions in general. And that's if they can get a visa into working in Israel. In Palestine, the median age of the population was 19.6 years in 2023, meaning that almost half the total population is comprised of children. Okay, I guess it's not the majority. It might be the majority now, but it's ridiculous. A person in a Norwegian prison is still a prisoner. Just because the prison conditions are better than the American prison doesn't change that reality. And the conditions of the Palestinian open air prison are not exactly great.
Did you guys see that now that Fuentes is back on Twitter, that there's now a war going on?
There are leftists that are running like Groyper accounts. Yeah. That's what you think?
The conservative war has ratcheted up once again. I haven't been on my conservative account in a little while, but I will say that things have started to get a little bad. Yeah, new challenger approaches. Let's see this. I got started with this. Jake Shields, known Jew disliker. Tim Pool is such a joke man with no principles. Last month, he told me he would have Nick Fuentes on for a debate about Israel. Later, he called and said that he didn't feel equipped for a debate and needed to find multiple Zionists for the panel. I called him back last week to see when he wanted to do it, and he ignored my calls. Yeah, I remember this. I know something about Tim Pool. You know how Tim Pool, when Russia invaded Ukraine, and he was really on the side of all Ukrainians need to roll over and shoot themselves in the head to help stop war. We need to be anti-war. That's why we need to make sure we never give any weapons to Ukraine or anyone, because that's the only good anti-war stance. Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report was talked to him about it. Talked to him about it. And we remember it. He was just like, he threw his hands up and he said, "I have no clue what's going on. I'm too stupid to know to have an opinion on anything." But then obviously over time he started to lean more into the pro-Israel thing. or not even, you know, I'm not asking somebody to know literally everything. I'm not asking for somebody to know the entire history of the region. I'm not even asking for people to know much like pre 1967. I really don't. You really just have to have a take about this conflict specifically for what's going on to have like any opinion whatsoever. But apparently he's just too he's not prepared to even talk about that, right? Later, he called and said he didn't feel equipped to have a debate and needed to find multiple Zionists for the panel. I called him back last week to see if he wanted to do it, and he ignored my calls. Eventually, he had his employee tell me that he changed his mind. Personally, I believe a man should always keep his word, and if he doesn't, at least have the balls to talk to who you lied to. These are the brave right-wing influencers. He was too scared to have Nick on. There are a lot of Nick. I'm not sure if these are really Tim Pool viewers, but these are people in the same ideological bubble as him, and he's absolutely getting obliterated here. Holy crap. I despise men who don't keep their word. All my business is done on a handshake, but obviously I would never do business with a guy like Tim. There was this picture that he took with Elijah Schaefer. You remember Elijah Schaefer? We talked about him in the recent Blair White video that we made a couple days ago. He was standing on, for some reason he wanted to stand on his tippy toes and shoes on the damn carpet too. Yikes, man. He said he's afraid of groypers. Okay, wait, I gotta check this out. I gotta check this out because there's been a back and forth between him and these other guys, and things are getting a little hairy. Tim quote tweeted him and said, Jake Shields got invited on IRL and refused to come unless we invited Nick because he said he couldn't handle it alone. If that's the case, then we can do a debate with him and Nick. No one would do it. Sorry, we told Jake that. Now he's crying about it. You made your own bed. What a whiny freaking baby. We kept stuff private and worked our asses off for him, and this is how he handles it. Cry more. Yeah, nobody wants to. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it makes a lot of sense that nobody wants to do a show like that with Nick. You don't want to bring him on YouTube and give him more views like that on YouTube. The only people who really want to do that are conservatives, right? So I don't know. Maybe you can have other like left wing and right wing conservative, but even left wing, right wing conservative. Sorry, you can have like pro and anti-Israel conservatives on, but even them, they don't really want to be like affiliated with him like that. That's a death blow to your career, especially since these guys are trying to make it on the Fox News. A lot of them get those brand deals, get those business deals, get a lot of money. You are a dork and a liar. You invited me on, and said how about me and Nick come on? You said yes, then got scared and didn't have the balls to tell me and ignored my calls and had Cassandra tell me. I'm just gonna be honest with you. This really doesn't seem that serious. What, somebody who works for him told you that a talk wasn't going to happen, and he ran to Twitter to be like, this guy is so mean to me. He didn't have the balls to tell me himself. Well, he told you. Like, I don't know. I really don't think this is something worth writing a soliloquy about how much you hate Tim Pool over it. I don't know. Maybe you just hated him to begin with. Gotta say, J.K. Lion, he was talking about this from this to me last few weeks. I saw it unveiled, and here I am, and I'm here for the ratio deposit. Oh no, he did ratio him too. Oh no, dude. I hate guys that won't keep their word. Oh my god, he keeps saying it. He's like a broken bot, man. You're literally crying because somebody didn't call you back. He gave me his word, then had his assistant call. I hate liars. What the fuck is happening? These crazy people, man. Do you wear a little beanie on your cock? What's happening, man? Scared of Nick. Dude, letting all the Fuentes fans back on was such a horrible mistake by Elon. Look at all this, dude. That's crazy. Yeah, so then Tim wrote, Jake Shields is a crybaby begging to come on my show like a little bitch. Sucks, doesn't it? Apparently this got a lot of play, dude. 11,000 likes. God dang. Not the Indiana Jones beanie off. The radicalization has just been slowly creeping over a while. Not all of these people are just straight up like, we need more neo-Nazi talking points. We need more neo-Nazi talking points. We freaking need them, man. Please, I'm begging you. We need to hear more of them. What the hell is that? Is it because you didn't stand by your word? Is anything Jake Shields alleged a lie? No. Who are Chief Trumpster? Why do these people follow? Who is this guy? Jake actually replied to this and went, Tim, I never asked to come on the show because I think it's boring. I have at least a dozen emails from 3 separate booking agents of yours. I told them all no every time. I only agreed to do it with Nick because I wanted to piss people off and also help Nick get back on big shows. You lie like a Jew. Oh! Oh, well, there it is. No, that's crazy. How'd that one work out? Excusez-moi? Well, I mean, this is just who these people are. It's not really surprising. It's just funny when you get to finally see it. Him crying. Just show the emails then, Jake. He could. It's true. He could show the emails then. All right, dog. Help Nick get back on big shows. Yeah, honestly, it's really nice that he's not on really big shows. If he can, it's really nice that he's not on big shows. A lot of people are just kind of done with him, right? I think he's interesting in moderation, but all this stuff surrounding him is really funny looking at. It's more funny looking at all the crazy people that surround him than him himself, in my personal opinion. Only when he's crying about something, which we are going to take a look at. Tim literally just quote to us like, "You lie like a Jew." This is Jake Shields. You're reaching, Tim. Seriously, bro. You're better than this. And he just quote tweeted with the same thing again. Oh, I see. We know what's under the beanie. Nice, nice. Most people in the last 6 months have noticed one group lies more than all others. You are aware, but you just want the money. This is a great website that you're putting together here, Elon. I honestly don't even know why the advertisers don't want to come back. I don't even understand why the advertisers don't want to come back. You do lie like a Jew code. So we need to check out what happened on Tim Pool now. We need to see what happens. Now, if you remember, Tim Pool did actually have Fuentes on when Kanye came with him. Kanye helped like bring Fuentes back into the mainstream. And help ruin Donald Trump's ability to be president again, which is really funny. That he's just like a nasty stain on anyone that he touches. But yeah, he was on the show before. It seemed like Tim Pool doesn't want to bring him back. I don't know if he's scared or whatever, but...
Also, thoughts on the Tim Pool versus Jake Shield panel stuff?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Tim Pool's just like a total joke. Tim Pool invited Shields and said, you can bring anybody you want. And Jake Shields said, I'll bring Nick Fuentes. Then Tim Pool said, oh, we have to debate people. And we gave them names. They're like, no, not that one. No, not that one. Oh, no one will do it. And then they just ghosted Jake Shields. So those people are always playing games. I'm so sick of playing.
So you think that he lied about no one wanting to do it, or was no one actually going to do it? That's the interesting thing that I want to know. Because probably I would really expect that it's true that no one was going to do it.
The fundamental right and left sort of hold similar ideology. They're going, anyone who doesn't call it a Jewish problem is a Shabbos goy or is fighting against the system.
Wait, what are they talking about?
I'm saying this because you are on YouTube and I'm not going to get you in trouble. I want to frame it like this. The reason why I believe people like Joel Berry or Seth Dillon or people are seeing what they call a rise in anti-Semitism, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and why I believe a genuine, you mentioned this earlier, I'll use your own words, like these dangerous Jewish conspiracies are sort of like on the rise, or what they're explaining. The reason why I think some of these ideas are finding themselves a home in both more fundamental left and fundamental right, and why the move is going against just being anti-Israel into...
Okay. He's going crazy over there.
Being against Jewish institutional power is because you have multiple cultural wars going on right now. And I want to just point out, I'm not sharing my own personal views or the views of the show, but this is what I believe from looking at it is happening.
Oh no, here we go.
Is you have like a war of woke, you have the war of the United States, I guess you could be like banning TikTok, banning our constitutional amendments. These are big issues. These are domestic problems with corruption in our government and foreign lobbying. When you talk about wokeness, etc., what people are seeing is whether you're you're against the Zionism problem and you're on the right side of the pro-Israel protest and you don't like those people and you see them as Jewish and Zionist, and then you see the left woke, you see them as communist, Bolshevik, aka Jewish origin or Jewish funded, like Soros suppressed, what you're seeing is two sides, Jewish influenced, Jewish origin, Jewish funded, fighting against each other. You don't support either and you go, oh, we don't have an Israel problem, we have a Jewish problem. And I think that's like the Kanye thing. He was on your show. That's what I've seen, is that, so then people that are talking about Zionism are talking about one half, people that are talking about woke are talking about one half, and they disagree on woke and disagree on Zionism, but they both see a problem with Jewish-led, Jewish-influenced and funded ideas and ideologies that are subverting and undermining society. So then they go, so the people come out of the mainstream right, mainstream left, that's confusing, mainstream right, mainstream left, and they go, hold up, these Jews are getting us to fight against each other, and they're getting us to disagree on different issues, but in the end, what do we have a problem with? It's these Jewish bankers, these Jewish media outlets, yada, yada. And so then they come here, this is why you're seeing the fundamental right and left sort of hold similar ideology.
Similar ideology? How? Well, like, where's the similar idea? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Absolutely in no way. Okay, like, please tell me where on the fundamental, what does he even mean by fundamental left have a problem with Jewish people? Listen, a lot of people on the left have a problem with states. Status policies and state-run organizations and states' influence when it comes to when it comes to what they foist upon human beings and how they use that power to harm people. It's states. Like, Israel at the end of the day is simply just a state. It's a country. It is a country that is using their foreign influence to be able to get what they want geopolitically. But that has nothing to do with Jewish people. China's doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing. Italy, Germany, Russia's doing the same thing. Yeah, it has nothing to do with Jews when you criticize Israel. Now, you can try to criticize, now you can go against Jewish people when you come after Israel, but then, yeah, you're just simply anti-Semitic. That's not what we're talking about. That's what he's talking about. Wait, is he saying the centrist position is actually being anti-Semitic?
Anyone who doesn't call it.
Yeah, like the left-wing position being anti. Wait, is he? Wait, apparently, so the left-wing position is being anti-Israel. The right-wing position is being anti, like, Jewish influence. And the centrist position, the real big brain position, is just being anti-Jews. All right, dog. That's not surprising coming from a guy like this. But fuck, I would just walk into. There's a Tim Pool show. That's what. Not surprising.
Oh, the Jewish problem is a Shabbos goy or is fighting against the system.
Oh, what? Dude, listen, that's how you know these people are so culty, dude. They're using language that you've never even heard of. I've never heard of this. Oh, what did he say? Did he say a Shabbos goy? Shabbos goy? What does that mean? What the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? So yeah, this is the guy that Tim Pool is having on his show right now to just have like a funny, chummy like buddy thing with. I personally, if I have women working at my workplace, I wouldn't want a guy who's known, like he's known to sexually assault many women. That's his whole thing, is assaulting women. I personally wouldn't bring him on my show personally, but I mean, I guess me and Tim are just a little different that way.
Or they're fighting for the system, and it's our prerogative to try to wake the people up on our side. So that's why they're really, like, ardent about it, and just like, hey, you guys are all fighting left versus right, Republican versus Democrat, Zionist versus anti-Zionist,
Guys, we have to. Oh my gosh. I see, bro thinks he's like Karl Marx, but well, actually, I was gonna be like Karl Marx, but against Jews, but actually, that's just Karl Marx, right? He's gonna be like, the people need to come together to find our real enemy. They're trying, the bourgeois is trying to keep us down. What do you say? Oh man, I'm so sick of these people, I swear. My man is blabbering. He was German after all.
capitalist versus communist, but you're all still just fighting Jews. And that's what I read. And you guys are all fighting left versus right, Republican versus Democrat, Zionist versus anti-Zionist, capitalist versus communist, but you're all still just fighting Jews. And
wait, is the world? I don't know, man. I was gonna be like, is the world ran by Jews? But I guess to this person, they really are, right? Communism, it's just like the fight against Jews. What the hell? This is like advanced mental illness where like literally everything in your life revolves around how much you hate Jewish people. I don't know if this guy even wakes up in the morning and doesn't think about Jewish people. Do you think that he's sleeping in his bed and the sun comes through his blinds and hits him directly in the eyes and he wakes up like Jews? You think that this dude must be checking under his bed for Jews before he goes to sleep? What's happening? Does he think that like some little Jew like from Remy, some little Jew like Remy from Ratatouille controlled him when he was working at the Blaze, that made him grab that woman's breasts? You think that's? You think it was the Jews that made him an alcoholic, that made him an alcoholic druggie, that made him cheat on his wife by assaulting women at work? I bet the Jews did this. The Jews put the sun in my eyes. The Jews made my wife leave me. The Jews are why I can't have a girlfriend. They did this to me. I run out of deodorant. It must have been the Jews, obviously. Walmart, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but Walmart isn't 24/7 anymore, and it must be because of them. It must be because of them. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? But in all seriousness, guys, I don't like that Walmart isn't. Can we a little break? I don't like how Walmart isn't 24/7. I don't like that. I know it's probably better for the workers, I guess, but like I don't like that. It's had a measurable impact on my life, and in not a good way. I feel like sometimes, because I get off of work a little late, I'm gonna be honest. Mods, I spilled my juice. Mods, help. Mods, the Jews took my juice. Right? I hate shopping in daylight. I don't hate shopping in daylight, but I feel like sometimes I get off of work late. Like I stop streaming later sometimes, and I really want to just, you know, just hang out. I wanna go eat something. Maybe we need like a little extra ingredient. And Walmart being 24/7 worked out so well. Walmart being able to go to Walmart at like 1 a.m. and be able to just hang out and like pick out something that I really needed, do the self-checkout and get out of there was so good. It was everything to me. Yeah, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., it was everything to me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really think it matters being open tonight. It's not like we're just busy and everyone stocks anyways. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys are gonna be stocking anyways. Might as well just stock while I can still get something. Or shut down a couple lanes so you guys can have space to stock or something. You know what I mean? Have like lights on the floor that have you can. Oh my gosh, can you even imagine? So there's like stoplights or something. So when you like all the floors have like lights and stuff, and there's lanes, and those are the lanes that the workers walk that you can't walk in, so they're able to get to where they need to go without having to worry about some weirdo sitting there. And so like and they light up on the floor. Like the Walton family definitely has enough money to do this shit, okay? They just don't want to. And so they can have their spots to walk, and I can have my spots to walk. And when somebody's walking, when like one of the workers are dragging one of the pallets around, it lights up and it's actually a stoplight. It's like a real stoplight inside of the store. And so you have to, you know, you have to yield to them coming through. And you can still shop and they can still stock and nobody really gets in each other's way. Yeah, like, or shut down half the store or something. But I really want to buy something. I want to buy something. Let me give you my money. Nobody is open anymore. Late. Nobody's open late anymore. And honestly, it makes me sad. For us night, hey, I got any night owls in chat? Who feel me? I got any night crawlers in chat who feel what I'm putting down right now? Because I'm telling you, when Walmart, is it just me? No, one in chat if Walmart not being 24/7 anymore, or at least like a 1 a.m. closing time has kind of changed the flow of your life a little bit. I'm not like it's completely like drastically changed. I'm just like a little bit. You know, the way you live your life changes like a little bit. Okay, I'm glad it's not just me. I'm glad this isn't just me. I get off at 11:30 and I used to shop at Kroger or Walmart late. Right. My Kroger stops being open. Sorry, my Walmart stops being open at 11 p.m. 11. Dog, some of us have other lives. Some of us got different types of lives, man. What the hell? I'm begging you. Used to shop at Dollar General late, but it closed down. I'm done. Oh, this is actually war. Dude, this is actually war on working class people if you think about it. They stopped being 24 hours 3 years ago. Yeah, it was during the pandemic. It was during the pandemic is when it all happened. That's when it all came crashing down. This is actual class warfare. I don't know, like, really, these people genuinely believe that Jews do everything. Like I don't know if he was, my question is, if you actually believe something this fucking stupid, wouldn't Jewish people be essential to how the world runs? Like, how does the world work if you get rid of them? Like, if this guy is able to do his Holocaust too, well, now what? Because apparently the Jews do everything. They do everything. You look anywhere and it's the Jews at work, right? You've heard of men at work? Get ready for Jews at work. Like, what? How does the world function without them now? Right? Like, apparently they run the banks and the schools and the economy. They run social studies and academia. They, like, you can work for like a small business, but that's probably ran by them too, and telecommunications and the news and TV shows and Hollywood. Like everything. They run video games as well. That's why all the women are ugly and their boobies aren't as big as they used to. Right? They run food. That's why they be putting microplastics in the food. They do immigration. They run the government. They probably run you. Oh my gosh. Well, I am getting my Soros bucks, right? John Fetterman would say I'm getting paid by Soros to say that Israel isn't that cool. So maybe you're right. If you ask John Fetterman, if you ask these fucking weirdo genocide denying freaks like Fetterman, he would tell you that the Jews actually run the fucking anti-Israel protests. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're cooking. Maybe you're cooking. You're right. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like, well, I feel like the world. You know what? Can someone have? It's like, you know that picture of Atlas you holding up the world. Just replace that with like some skinny Jewish boy wearing his yarmulke, and actually, instead of hating Jews, you should be thanking Jews. You know, every time you go to your local bank, you should be like, thank you, Jewish people. Thank you. There should be a menorah-shaped shrine at every single place of the business, honestly, that you could donate to your local Jewish people and tell them thank you. Thank you. Because honestly, the world wouldn't tick without them. They make the world go round, apparently, to these fucking people. What would you do without them? Yeah. Yeah, can't live without them. We can live with them. We've been doing it for what, like 6,000 years? We can live with them. But it seems like we honestly can't live without them. Thankfully, the humble nature of the Jewish people allows them to do the hard work that no Christian or Muslim ever wants to do, or any atheist either. that they go in and do all the hard work of running society, apparently, sure, to these people. And you know, there's a thankless, and all these people do is be mean to them. So honestly, you should be thanking them. What a dumbass, dude. What an absolute loser. Yeah, he's a spoiled child. He really is a spoiled child. He really is. I walk by my local synagogue and I throw all the money that I got from my last stream at them, and I say thank you. You know what's crazy is that if and when white people become the minority in the country, they would not be the model minority. You think that's what really makes him mad? Yeah, that's so funny. He has the same ideology of Imperial Japan, who thought okay, so some people didn't know, Imperial Japan actually had almost the same worldview that Nazi Germany did about Jewish people. The only difference is Germans thought Jews controlled the world, but it was a bad thing, and Imperial Japan thought Jews controlled the world, but it was actually badass, and they want to do it just like them. they wanted to do it too. They were like, whoa, really? Hitler was like, and the Jews, they control the world. And they were like, yo, badass. I want to do that too. Oh, it's so funny. Oh, these people are hilarious, I swear. I want a piece of that action. I want a piece of the pie. Vulnerable warriors. You know, the funny thing about it is that's what actually led them to like invading all of Eastern Asia too. They saw, okay, so when the US went to Eastern Asia and forced Japan and forced China open for trade, we didn't necessarily do the same to Korea, but Japan was like, it really sucked that the US did it, but it must have been really cool from their end. They must have did it and they made a whole lot of money. Like Japanese people were under the boot of American oppression, and they were like, that's a good idea. And then they did it to Korea too. And so that's when a lot of the Japanese oppression of Korea started. That's how it all began. Is that they saw America doing it and they were like, that's badass. That's them Japanese people. They're quick learners. That game recognized game. They're quick learners. And so they were like, let's actually do that to them. We got this. Yeah, they took a look at the oppression. They were like writing notes. Okay. Wait, it's epic. Yeah. What a dumbass dude. I hate these people. I swear.
And that's what I read and what I see. And again,
you think Tim is squirming in his seat right now after all this stuff? You know he doesn't want to get banned. Bro cares about money above anything else.
I'm going to point out to
what
YouTube censors, that's not the views of the show or myself or anyone in particular.
People are saying
that's what people on the fundamental right and left are saying. And
yeah, I bet that's not your views, brother.
People like Seth Dillon and Joel Berry, who are vocal, pro-Jewish people that are Christian and whatever, are getting confused about, is that a lot of people that are stuck in the dichotomy of left and right or one of these fights aren't really seeing where these guys are coming from, and to them it just seems like racist hatred. But these people are feeling like they're trying to liberate their own party and maybe even find universal peace by a common issue. So that's.
Was he talking about like Haas and Is he talking about like Haas and Dinkel? Who are the people crossing the aisle to neo-Nazis?
That's my best. Maybe you disagree with me, but that's my diagnosis of the current social bubble.
I do indeed disagree.
I agree. That's what they're rising. I think your assessment is completely correct. I think the idea is bad, and it's going to harm these people.
Completely correct. Oh, this guy. Oh, this Tim Pool guy's. He's out of his damn mind.
I think
maybe he never had it.
I think the idea is bad, and it's going to harm these people in the long run because it's pointing their work efforts into a direction that won't do anything for them. I think if they were to start a business, work out, exercise, eat healthy, get away from the cities, I'm not saying go live on a farm and have chickens, but that's a good start. If they found a way to actually just build up their families and their lives, they could find themselves wealthy, successful, and with great political influence. Instead, what they're doing is they're going online and accusing an ethnic group of being the root of the ideology or the progenitor of the conflict between them, which won't actually make their lives better.
Look what happened to Nick Fuentes. He tried, though.
Oh, wait. Okay, so I think he's going to say that neo-Nazis like Fuentes and them are just like commies because they're cringe losers who blame one guy for all of their problems. Because the commies, they blame the man and the capitalism, and the Nazis, they blame the Jews. And so that's why they're all losers at the end of the day, and that's why they are the real biggest brained of boys. I guess that's going to be his cope for why he acts the way he does.
I mean, I think it actually makes me sad to see people depersoned on either side of the political spectrum. But Nick Fuentes actually makes me genuinely sad because I went to dinner with him one time in Chicago, non-political, just like you'd meet up with anybody, and I got to talk to him about his life. I won't say anything here.
I really don't think you meet up with people like that. But you had something. You were there for a reason, dog. You were there. They were there for a reason. I'm so sad for Nick. I remember last time we were talking about him, he was like, his life actually sucks. Like, people are always mean to him. Like people can't be associated with him unless they're like tainted, right? Like, things aren't necessarily going that well. It was a Grindr hookup. That's crazy.
Just a normal guy. Like, just a normal guy, nice guy, well-mannered, very respectful to the people. You know, his last name's Fuentes. I always thought that's funny. He's the face of the white supremacy movement to the left. His last name's Fuentes. It's not a very white name. But, you know, I talked to him, and I really believe that he believes.
Oh no! Listen, you gotta be careful. I've met you don't know Hispanic people if you don't think that they can be white supremacists. I'm going to tell you that. I love them though. I love Hispanics. We love them.
What he thinks about this issue, and I think what you said is true. I think that he's actually intellectual. He understands his prognosis. I'm sure you guys disagree, but I don't think that the way he's been painted and the reflection of him has been fair, and I think that adds to a lot of the conspiracy around Jewish people and things, people that try to point out the real problem. And I think he's been pretty accurate early on a lot of diagnoses of things. When they use his followers and what random bots will say on the internet to define what he says, I think that's my point. A lot of the way people are treating this adds to more of the issue, because the way the media presents this issue makes people further think, oh, Jews are in control of the media, it is a Jewish problem, and it becomes more concerning. And I have to be so careful in how I word this.
Here we go.
Whatever has happened is not going to switch back unless powers that be create a large global event like a reconstruction. I think too many people see the problem as a Jewish power problem and not an Israel problem. And I think that's going to be the fastest growing side of the left and the right currently. And the gatekeepers on both sides are not talking with these people. They're shaming them.
They're making it worse.
They're calling them idiots and racists and anti-Semites. And instead of addressing the concerns they have about Jewish power, look, if Jewish power is not there, then prove it and tell them. And you don't have to debate them. Debate me, bro. They don't have to go on your show. You don't have to platform them. You owe them nothing. But please, if these people are wrong, disprove them.
How?
Well, that's not up to me. I'm saying if you're saying they're stupid and they're wrong, you have to prove they're wrong. But by calling them names, you're emboldening them. So if they're dangerous and they're a threat and they're going to cause problems, like, I'm trying to be as serious as I can here because I'm not always a serious guy.
Well, it's not about like causing problems. It's about killing people, right? That's the thing that we really don't want them to do, like killing people and encouraging other people to kill people through their words and their actions. I don't know. How do you prove them? I don't know. I mean, you just look through all the stuff that they talk about. It's just simply wrong. What they mean, it's just like, this is how you know a lot of these people are just absolutely brain dead. When they're like, oh, a Jew controls this. What they mean by Jewish is that their great uncle on their mom's side was the great uncle on their mom's side was Jewish. And that's why, and they found out that he was Jewish and he visited Israel once. And so that's why this guy is Jewish, and then they'll put like the Star of David on their name, and then give you a big list about like a big scary list and be like, oh my gosh, look at this. Oh, OMG. Oh, isn't this so crazy? Of course. The thing is, these guys have been disproven so many times on like over and over and over again. It like disproving them isn't the issue. It's about not letting them convince other people that they're right.
This meme is very real.
Not his opinion, though. Definitely not his opinion, though. But he's very passionate about this opinion. It's not his opinion.
I'm retarded too, so it's like hard to explain myself sometimes. But if the gatekeeper, so it's like I'm trying to be as serious as I can here, because I'm not always a serious guy. I'm retarded too, so it's like hard to explain myself sometimes.
Chat, can we make that a soundbite? That got kind of crazy when somebody subscribes.
They're dangerous and they're a threat and they're gonna cause problems. Like, I'm trying to be as serious as I can here, because I'm not.
That could be a crazy like subscribe soundbite.
As I can here.
Wait, let me see.
As serious as I can here, because I'm not always a serious guy. I'm retarded too. So I'm retarded too. So.
Oh wait, this one goes kind of nutty. I'm gonna be honest here.
I'm not always a serious guy. I'm retarded too. So.
That one goes kind of nutty. I'm gonna be honest. You gotta play that one with the Alex Jones one. I hate the white nationalist haircut so much. It helps them out. It helps them out. Especially when that hairline starts to get greatly replaced. It's important.
It's like hard to explain myself sometimes, but if the gatekeepers on both the left and the right, the establishment media and the establishment media on the right, really believe that these people are disgusting anti-Semites, that they are going to cause a world war, they're going to cause another Holocaust, we don't want to see anybody dead, and that they're tearing apart our country, and they have a very false and vitriolic and disgusting ideology, then can you please do more than calling them anti-Semites and racist and taking Cookie Monster jokes out of context? Also, fuck you. Sorry, I shouldn't cuss on YouTube, but F you if you think Cookie Monster jokes offend you. You're too weak. These gatekeepers have lost, and the problem.
Just so you know, if you don't know what he's talking about by Cookie Monster jokes, Nick had somebody comment on his Nick had somebody give him money and then be like, well, I don't think the Cookie Monster could eat 6 million cookies in that many years, and he's like, oh, I don't know, maybe you're right. You know, it's just some dumb fucking bullshit about him doing he was joking about Holocaust denial, which he genuinely believed, but he was joking about it on his stream, and a lot of people use it as like, obviously this guy's a fucking dumbass and a Holocaust denier, and he always gets mad when people use that. He always gets mad when people say something about it because he was like, I'm joking, I was a meme, I'm memeing, I'm just memeing. It's just a funny meme, it's just a funny joke, come on.
The problem is now they've lost so much power. You could be a guy with 6-7 million followers, one of the most influential guys like Ben Shapiro, just getting roasted and ratioed no matter what you post on any social media platform by now the left and the right under your post.
What? Oh my gosh, the Jews have lost so much power. Ben Shapiro is getting ratioed on Twitter. Okay, you fucking dumbass. Have you ever gone outside in your life? Guys, look, the Jews have lost so much power. Ben Shapiro's getting ratioed. The ADL's getting ratioed. No, the Fourth Reich is coming. The ratios are getting worse. Are you sure that that's what's getting? Are you sure that the ratios are really getting worse, or is just Twitter getting worse? It's curious how that works out. He a fan? He really is. He is a real freaky ass fascist. You're so. Oh my. He is a fan. You're right. He is freaky. You a fan? Need to stay their ass inside. Hey, about the 1488. Freaky ass Nazi. Freaky ass Nazis gotta stay their ass inside. Hey. They not like us. They not like us.
I never thought I'd see the day.
It's fake. Some of it's real.
Some of it is fake, but I think I talk to people, and a lot of people think this stuff.
I think Fuentes has fake fans. I think we have talked about this before.
Oh, he's so
I think
mad.
there are people who go online claiming to be fans of Fuentes, but try desperately to make it so that nobody wants to associate with him by being violent intentionally.
I can believe that 100%.
Oh, actually, when you experience Fuentes and his fans, it's actually a psyop by the feds or by leftists to make Fuentes look bad, and all of the Nick Fuentes fans are actually really cool guys, like that guy who threatened to shoot up CPAC in Florida, and when the cops found him, they found him with like 10 terabytes of CP on his computer. Like those guys you don't see like making a ruckus on Twitter. Those Fuentes fans, those are the ones that we love. Isn't that right, chat? Average Groiper moment. It's all a fed up, dude. Actually, anytime I see something I don't like, it's a fed up. I remember I was at the I was at Walmart the other day, and I parked next to the I was at the Walmart the other day and I parked next to the cart corral, and I came back out after I bought whatever I wanted, and you know what I saw? A cart that hit my car, just like not in the cart corral, and I was like, holy shit, it's the feds. I got out of there as soon as possible. The feds hit my car with a cart. The feds made my last girlfriend break up with me. I remember I pissed myself in the 5th grade in the middle of class. Everyone laughed. It was definitely the feds who sabotaged my bladder. It sucks. Stay safe out there, dude. I'm doing my best. Thank you.
What do they believe?
The followers?
Yeah.
I'm saying that there are people who are masquerading as followers of Fuentes who hate what he thinks, hate who he is, and they're doing it to make sure that no one will platform Nick.
That's
a lot of work.
You think if that were true, then Nick foments some of the most vile people. I don't think that I watched Nick debate Destiny, parts of it. I've seen him give debates. He has coherent thoughts. I think he's wrong on a lot of things. That's fine. But I think when he argues, he's talking about here's what happened in history, and here's what I think. Then his followers go online and start sending vile, awful things to people, which I won't repeat. I'm like, I don't think those are actually fans of his, because all they're doing is ensuring that no show will ever have him on.
Or that's just what they believe. Or that's what he believes and what they all believe. They're just less articulate. Have you ever thought about that? A random fan of a political commentator is probably less articulate than the commentator themselves that's media trained for years. It's crazy how that works out. Coherent thoughts. Yeah, this Nazi, he's got real coherent thoughts. I'm gonna be honest. Tim Pool be listening to Fuentes bobbing his head like this guy's spitting.
If those are actually his fans, then he's a victim of his own following.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened to Hitler too, but
I think that they're probably genuine.
Well, then
a lot of them are teenagers.
Then he's destroyed himself. There was a period where he asked his followers to stop spamming us because we literally were like, we get attacked relentlessly by people claiming to be fans of his, and he was like, guys, what are you doing? Stop. They don't. So you go to any.
What do you mean? Can you? Because I'm going to be fair and just like hear you.
They don't. Wait. So when they didn't stop, he didn't think, oh, Fuentes fans suck. He thought, they must be feds. Yeah, that beanie's working in overtime. You think his beanie is kind of like a supercharger on a car? Like it helps him think more. That's why he doesn't want to take it off. It's like NOS. It helps his brain work better. If he didn't have it, he'd be slowing down a lot more. His brain's overheating now.
What do you mean by they're fake, and who would be behind this? Like, is it a
That's what I was trying to find out.
Leftists?
But what does that mean, leftists?
There are leftists that are running like Groyper accounts.
Yeah.
That's what you think?
Of course.
It is a fact that leftists run sock puppet accounts. That's not in dispute.
Okay.
It is a fact that there have been people on the right and the left who have made accounts masquerading as the opposing side to make them look bad. That's
like every account online that claims to be an Asian woman and a black woman. Half of those accounts are just run by racist white boys in Ohio specifically.
That's been known about for a long time. In fact, we know the U.S. government does the exact same thing.
Are there people who pose as fans of yours who do that? They do that?
I would imagine.
Beanie Groyper? 69-420?
The idea, so you genuinely think that leftists aren't trying to get Nick banned?
Well, I don't think that they're running Groyper accounts trying to do that, no.
You don't think that a leftist would make a fake account and then say a whole bunch of really awful things that Nick never said so that Nick gets banned?
No, I don't.
No. Dude, that's crazy. Not even his insane lackeys are keeping up with his wild cope about Fuentes. This is actually genuinely remarkable cope coming out from Tim. No, dude, I promise it's not the things that he actually says and believe in the audience that he cultivates. It has to be leftists spending literally every single day running Groyper accounts that make him look bad, and they spend all their time trying to get him banned by having an audience, by pretending to be an audience member when they're actually not him. Dude, these people dedicate their lives to being Nazis, man. You can't. It's so hard to fake it. It's actually so. I'm telling you this, okay? There's a reason why there's a push from people to have Hollywood have actors for certain roles, act in certain roles. Like when you have an autistic role, they want an autistic actor to be there. It's really hard to pretend to be autistic. In that same vein, when you need like a mentally ill teenage neo-Nazi, you need to pretend to be one, like act like one. There is no better source than to just have a mentally ill teenage neo-Nazi play that role. It's so hard to be an organic Fuentes, to be an inorganic Fuentes fan. It's so hard to pretend to be an inorganic Fuentes fan. These people's entire lives revolve around this. Their entire accounts revolve around this. You can check their likes, their retweets. They're saying stuff that you've never heard of in your entire life. They're giving you quotes that you've never heard of in your entire life. They have a lingo that takes a lifetime to be able to learn. That takes at least like multiple years of dedicated learning to be. Yeah, they're using ancient slurs. You cannot fake this like this. You just can't. You have to imbibe in this stuff for so long for you to even begin to pretend to be one of them. Actually, you know what actually disproves that is that the feds did actually try and do this. There was one story. I'm making fun of his Fed thing, but there is one story where federal agents back, especially during the end of the McCarthy era in the United States, tried to infiltrate communist book clubs to be able to see what they were talking about, but it required so much reading and so much insular knowledge that only they knew through years of being inundated that they couldn't possibly be able to break through without looking like a fake inorganic person who has no clue what they're talking about and ultimately suspicious. So they got kicked out, and they wrote a report and they're like, dude, it's hard to get in there. We have no clue what the hell they're even saying. Like half the words that they say, we don't even know what's going on. At the end of the day, it's just more likely for somebody to be actually a crazy person into it than somebody pretending to be a crazy person into it. Yeah, they have deep lore. Yeah, we don't need to misquote them. We just need to quote them. Yeah.
Think so.
Okay, well, they do that. It's a fact.
As under like sock accounts of his fans, I don't buy that. No.
But it is a fact. This happens.
How do you know that though?
So first of all, being from the hacker community and hanging out at many different hacker spaces and in social engineering specifically, being at Occupy Wall
I was there in hacker spaces.
Wall Street and in the direct action meetings, I have watched them run sock puppet accounts. I have been in the IRC chats where they do this intentionally. I have not seen anyone say I'm going to make a Groyper account and attack Nick Fuentes, but I'll tell you this: the idea that Nick or everyone else is immune to sock puppetry is an absurdity. We know it's a common activist psyop tactic. We know the U.S. military has been doing this for a long time. We know that Barrett Brown ran a group called Project PM, which uncovered the U.S. Air Force buying sock puppet accounts from U.S. private actors. So my point is, knowing this is a common practice among activist groups and among private security contractors, the idea that the people who go on and send rape threats to someone are legitimate Nick fans, if that's true, then I understand why Nick is banned from everywhere. Totally get it. But I
love it how this is a man trapped in a fake world, and then sort of like kind of like a fist-sized portal into the real. He's in the painted world, and then a fist-sized portal back to the real world opens up, and he looks through and sees reality for the first time, and he just can't believe it. He cannot believe it. He can't believe his own eyes when he sees it. Dude, look at her face. She's like, what the hell is this guy talking about? What she's like, what is he on about? This guy is going crazy. This guy's lost his mind. not stairs and white woman.
I actually think when I watch Nick debate Destiny, for instance, or Nick.
I was in social engineering classes.
Speaking with Milo or anything like that, I'm like, here's a guy who genuinely believes what he thinks that I disagree with, and then you look at a follower sending death threats to someone's children and rape threats to their children, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think that person actually likes Nick because they're damaging.
Can I say this? So as knowing Nick personally, I know that Nick condemns all calls of violence, like anyone here on this table.
Then why would
any rape threats? Well, listen to me. I think there's something like there's really an important lesson in this. There's something really important. I blame the gatekeepers of the right-wing movement for the toxicity of many of the anonymous accounts that follow Nick more than I would ever blame Nick, because it is them who, instead of giving Nick a platform.
Do you think that this is just them trying their best not to get shitted on by Nick fans because they didn't want to be like, they didn't want to be bombed? Like literally bombed, and also like dislike bombed and comment bombed.
calls of violence, like anyone here on this table.
Then why would
any rape
fans?
threats? Well, listen to me. I think there's something like there's really an important lesson in this. You know, there's something really important. I blame the gatekeepers of the right-wing movement for the toxicity of many of the anonymous accounts that follow Nick more than I would ever blame Nick, because it is them who, instead of
Dude, the cope is so crazy. Our golden Nazi boy. He couldn't do anything wrong. I pray he's so nice. I went to dinner with him. When he talked to Destiny, he seemed like he was making such good points. How in the world could a guy who makes jokes about burning women alive and having sex with monkeys ever possibly have an audience full of people who say bad things?
giving Nick a platform pushed Nick into the recesses of the internet. And, you know, he's made a resurgence, and good for him on that, because if his ideas were false, they would have proved them wrong already, and he would have went away. But what I'm saying is, they pushed him into this area where he had to go into alt tech and all these sites to push himself. Now, during those formative years, who would have been on alt tech? It would have been, when the censorship wasn't bad on social media like it was the last 4 or 5 years, who would have been on alt tech? It wouldn't have been you or me. I use alt tech now. It would have been people who probably were calling for rape and calling for violence, and people who were insane. So number one, because he's going to alt tech in the early stages where that's the main audience, but we're all in Rumble now, maybe you're not, we're all using alt tech, he's gonna latch on to a certain group of people and make them feel seen and known, which is normal, that are gonna latch on. So those people that got pushed off, they pushed Nick into those scenes. He might have gotten some of those people who felt heard, who felt listened to, but also, can't we stop taking random commenters on the internet so seriously? Like, somebody saying to me, I'm gonna kill you, you bastard, which I get that kind of stuff all the time, is not a valid death threat. Or I'm gonna come to your house, they'll tell me where I live and say I'm gonna kill you. And I don't even report it to the police, because the reality is...
Okay, so let's go back, because we're derailing.
No, I'm saying this.
What is this guy on
people
about?
really, because they can't beat Nick, they focus a lot on his followers, which he would even, which he would condemn the toxicity of them. Because if I have followers and someone says, dude, your followers call me the N-word, I'd say, dude, oh, that's terrible. I would condemn that.
So then I take it back. I agree with both of you. Nick has fomented an audience that threatens to rape and murder people's children.
No, I didn't say he fomented. I'm saying
no, an audience. I didn't say he did.
I'm saying it's not him, because if there's anybody that follows him that's acting retarded like that, I blame the gatekeepers for, instead of inviting him to the table to discuss, pushed him into the dark parts of the web. And now he's mainstream.
The way that Charlie Kirk talked about them back in 2019 was so crazy.
Who was on Right Tech? The people who normally call for rape. What? Yo, what? What type of lore have I missed? Well, I can't really say I missed it. A lot of these people don't believe in marital rape, so I mean, they are calling for rape, yeah, in some ways. Like Prager, who believes that a wife should just put out whenever, and be okay if like a man just like if their husband just forces themselves on them, because they can't force themselves on them because they're married. They put me in the internet ghetto. That's true, honestly. That's true, honestly. That's so freaking true. Yeah, they're like the internet Auschwitz, the internet ghetto. They say this type of stuff a lot, and it's so funny.
Unhuman. They call these people unhuman. They were not real.
And a lot of them, they're literally minors.
My point is, certainly, there's a saying goes on the internet, no one knows you're 14. I'm saying that I pointed
pushed him into the dark parts of the web. And now he's mainstream. His followers are to the table. Police, because the reality is, because they can't beat Nick and the toxicity of them, because if I have followers and someone says, dude, your followers call me the N-word, I'd say, dude, oh, that's terrible. I would condemn that.
So then I take it back. I agree with both of you. Nick has fomented an audience that threatens to rape and murder people's children.
No, I didn't say he fomented. I'm saying
an audience. I didn't say he did.
I'm saying it's not him, because if there's anybody that follows him that's acting retarded like that, I blame the gatekeepers for, instead of inviting him to the table to discuss, pushed him into the dark parts of the web.
So they don't. So why do they follow him? Just for fun? Just for fun? Is he the only outlet that they have? What does that mean? If he doesn't give them anything that they want to hear, why in the world would they be following him? Okay, so he does appeal. He does appeal to Groiper rapists. He does appeal to N-word rapist 223. Okay, he appeals to that guy. He appeals to Hitler rapist. Hitler rapist 1488. That guy who follows Nick. He actually is a product of the system of the internet ghetto that the gatekeepers of the far right put Nick into, and that's why he has to act that way, because there's no other way that they could express themselves besides hitting the follow button on him and watching his streams and donating him money. You see, so it's not even his fault, This is advanced cocksucking, you know what I mean? This guy is like, he's doing it crazy style. Dude, he's doing it crazy. He's doing it from the back, man. That's wild. I'm going, this is craziness. He's slurping on it like it's his birthday. The attempts to downplay every single, you know, he's not like a child anymore, right? He's a grown man. He's in his 20s. He's older than me, actually. I'm not sure if you guys know that, but Fuentes is even older than me. I'm younger than him by a couple, like less than a year, I think, a couple months. But yeah. Yeah, like it's wild. Like he's a man now. He's an adult, and they're treating him like the biggest baby, like kid gloves. I don't know. Is it because they don't want death threats from his community? What is he being controlled? Maybe it's not Jews that control the world. Maybe it's actually white Hispanic boys who control the world. Maybe it's them. They're scared. They're scared of what could happen to them when the white Hispanic boys all like bond together and then like is to grab each other's hand, like grab each other's wrists and ankles and form the white mecha droid to absolutely demolish Tim Pool and his whole studio. Yeah, he's licking and flicking and everything, man.
The way that like Charlie Kirk talked about them back in 2019 was so
called them unhuman. They called these people unhuman. They were not real.
And a lot of them, they're literally
right, so my
minors.
My point is, certainly, there's a saying goes on the internet, no one knows you're 14. I'm saying that I don't believe people who genuinely agree with Nick's point of view are hunting people, like going to people's profiles and threatening to rape their children. I think that's someone trying to smear and make Nick look bad. But if I could be wrong about that,
do you think there's like autistic teenagers who are like, I think using like some sort of like a scrambler? But
now they're gonna lean on the mental illness crisis in the United States for why Knicks fans are so bad. What? They're gonna pull everything out of the books. Everything out of the books. Okay, maybe it's the feds, maybe it's the leftist sock puppet accounts, maybe it's actually the right that makes his fans that bad, and they are actually his fans, but it's not his fault. Maybe actually it's the mental illness crisis in America that makes them like this, and it's not his fault either. And they're all 14-year-olds using NordVPN.
See what they can get away with.
Scramble an IP. You make a fake Twitter account. You make a fake profile on Instagram. What are you talking about?
I was more just talking about emailing people because that's what I've seen.
Look, it's really simple. I just assumed that. Because I don't watch Nick's stuff, I assumed that he was telling people.
Yeah, dude, so true. Yeah, he didn't do nothing. Dude, Nick didn't do nothing. We used to be Vikings and shit. He didn't do nothing. Hands up, don't ban. Hands up, don't ban. He didn't do nothing. We used to be Vikings. Despite making up 25% of the Twitter population, conservatives make up 75% of the bans. Curious, isn't it? They all look a certain way too, don't they?
People not to do this, and his fans. But okay, so that's what my point is. It seems strange then that Nick would say to my fans, "Don't do this," and then they would. That says to me, they're probably just leftists trying to make it look bad running side accounts. But if you guys think that's too far-fetched, then I'll just defer to you and say Nick's audience sends death threats and rape threats to people's children.
Yeah.
Do you think that's true?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, that's your position,
yes.
Mary?
Wait,
you think groypers threaten to rape children regularly?
Yes.
I don't really pay attention to.
Actually, yes, because they don't believe in the age of consent. Like, actually, unironically, yes, they do. Like, they're like when we finally get control of society, the groypers are like they want to finally be able to, when they're 30, get it when it's fresh and scoop up their 15, 16, 17-year-old bride. Yeah, actually, yeah, they don't believe in the age of consent. Yeah, of course.
What groypers are doing.
Yeah, Al Qaeda, man.
Was there somebody that?
I really don't know who you're referring to.
I'm not going to. There's a
Wait, who did they threaten?
Is this the same girl we're thinking of?
Who did they threaten?
There's a few people I'm not going to mention because they'll get more rape and death threats. I don't.
You don't have to mention them.
I have no idea.
I don't think the rape and death threats are coming from Nick's fans. I think it's someone trying to smear him to make sure that shows don't want to associate with him because they're scared of getting rape and death threats. But I will say, I'm wrong. You're right.
No,
Nick's audience sends death threats to people's children.
I just don't think on the internet.
Oh my gosh, he's trying to put it off. He's trying to be kind of centrist, but also put it off on them, so he doesn't get the rape and death threats. He's scared. He's scared. Oh no, dude. Bro's terrified. Tim is so heated when defending his neutral position. Tim obviously is a bit too sensitive when guests bring up a certain little foreign country and their influence operations in the United States. Haha. Oh man, this is sick. This is grody. Tim slipping. Elijah spitting. His whole comment section's coming out against him, man. Also, this isn't very, it's not very, accurate. This, add the like and dislike back. So we don't actually know how bad this is.
Internet. Like, this may come off, maybe I'm from the original internet, but I'm from the day where everybody called each other N-word with the hard R on Xbox Live, and you're going, so your audience says they're gonna rape, your audience says that people are gonna, or let's take this back, Microsoft's customers, people who use Microsoft products and play Halo online, are Microsoft supports, Microsoft supports, people are gonna rape, your mothers.
Let's load it right now.
Yeah.
Getting a phone call or getting emails and getting messages where
he's gonna Nick Fuentes the Microsoft.
Sure. They post an address and say they're going to rape your children is messed up.
Well, I will say, Microsoft letting those people do that on their platform, is Microsoft condoning what they do? It's actually the opposite way around.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Knicks fans are doing that.
Yeah, we can tell that
someone who really like Nick or would be a real fan and isn't autistic and retarded wouldn't do that. Yes, that is true.
So who's doing it? It must be someone trying to make it.
There could be people that enjoy him
normal
still.
people who like Nick, and there are weird people who like Nick, and why is that so hard to believe?
So then I will stop and we can move on, and I defer to Mary and agree. Knicks fans send rape threats to
But don't do that to you sometimes. Like, oh, he watched Tim Pool and he did this, and like this person like watched Candace Owens and they shot up
literally my
Christchurch,
point. They're not his fans. I don't understand why you both are arguing that Knicks fans are doing
viewers. I guess it's just a definition of fan. Like, you can't control who's your fan, basically. So I'm sure there's some crazy.
I'm saying they hate him. I'm saying they hate him. They want to hurt him.
I would say they don't know that they're doing that, but yes, they're hurting him. If you're doing that, stop doing that to you. If you like a creator, I'll say if you like a creator and you're trying to support them, don't threaten to rape and kill their enemies.
If it's a sock account pretending to be a Groyber, it's more likely to be a Fed than a leftist, right?
What's the difference?
I don't even necessarily know what to say all the time. They're just, this is critical levels of yapping that I'm just, I don't even know a big difference. Well, once again, you got to remember, everybody's a Fed. Everyone's a Fed. That's something that you got to understand. Tim Pool calls Allen Texas shooter footprint a psyop and blames it on multiculturalism. Yeah, that did absolutely happen. He was like, actually, it was multiculturalism that did it, and it's a psyop, and he's not my fan. Yeah, he even said the shooting was funny too. And then when brought up about it, when he said it was a psyop, what he meant was, he goes like, actually, I didn't say the event was a psyop. I meant the people talking about it was the real psyop. Okay. All right, Captain Dumbass. Actually, all my viewers are Feds. You know what? I was thinking, like, what am I gonna name the community? You know, what are community members going to be called? Like, I only came up with a group, like how to refer to all of you all. Like, all of you viewers are the frenzy. But I think we should call you all Feds. I think that really works out. You know, Allie, she calls her viewers porn bots. I think you all should be Feds. Chat, what do you guys think? What's up, my Feds?
Because the Feds are trying to entrap, I guess, the genuine fans into criminalizing themselves.
Right. So my point ultimately is it's someone trying to get him banned or get people to dissociate with him because they don't like what he brings. When look, I'll tell you this: you talk to any podcaster, and they know the moment you say Fuentes, they're in for a world of hurt because they're going to get attacked relentlessly, and that's why people don't want him on their show.
Just because of ego or what?
No, because Fuentes' followers cause economic damage to
any podcaster. I'm going to be honest with you. When I mention his name, everything is perfectly fine. Sometimes you even get better views. Not all the time, but sometimes. And it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny, especially that cum chip searching one that we did, where he allegedly tried to make the moves on that poor little Nazi boy that he diddied from that he diddied from Kansas and had live in his basement. I remember that one.
Businesses that mention his name. Wow. It's not even about whether, like, the moment his name comes up on a podcast, people know it's like, okay, call the security guards. We're going to need 2 extra guys. It's going to cost another $100,000.
Was that what you're going to do now?
So I'm not going to speak specifically.
Okay, so what about the people that actually show up places and follow him when he goes around and does stuff? Like at CPAC, are those people just feds and leftists pretending to be his supporters too? Or those like the or those his supporters actually again, and they don't actually have Twitter accounts, and if they do, all the Twitter accounts are badass and they're super sick and epic and polite and really nice.
As to Nick, but I can tell you that when his name comes up on the show, it causes problems for us. For me, I'm willing to say it on the show because I'll tell people what's going on. But this is the reality that a lot of shows won't tell you. They're going to be like, if you mention him on the show, I'm going to have to deal with it and call a security guard. We're going to get phone calls, we're going to get emails, and then we're going to have to call the police. Then we're going to have a security guard 24 hours. That's going to cost, like, big shows. If you're talking about 24-hour security this could be millions of dollars. And so a lot of
it's almost like we're starting to realize that this guy is an actual problem and why nobody actually really wants to associate with him. And it's not because of his big brain ideas that no one could possibly ever outdo. It's because he's a piece of shit and everybody who follows him is an even bigger shitter somehow. It's crazy. It's almost like everybody who has an interaction with this guy that isn't 100% cordial and even if it is always horrible. Wow, he's almost starting to get it. He's almost getting it, but maybe they're all feds and leftists, actually.
People are just...
If that's the case, then he has more feds that follow him than fans.
It's like, it's easy for a smaller YouTuber, smaller podcast, where it's like a guy in a small production team, but for bigger companies, they won't go anywhere near Nick because of this. And that's why I'm like, I don't think
they won't go because of this. Yeah, it's definitely because of this and not all the other stuff that he says.
I had problems for having on my show. Like, I'm not going to get into the details, but like, yeah, there was even a lawsuit involved that was in part mentioned and was largely mentioned, the problem of having Nick Fuentes on, and I've seen that is true. So having Nick Fuentes on, I would say having Nick Fuentes on has hurt my life financially and caused problems for me, but to me it's more the ethics, but I don't blame anyone because I have lost a lot of money over the years. Even recently,
holy crap, is this guy the fucking devil? Why everything he touches turns to ash? What is happening? Yeah, the ethics of white supremacy. Dude, everybody who interacts with this guy has problems. This guy is a piece of shit, man. Just say it how it is, apparently, or just not talk about him. Which one is it gonna be? That's actually wild. Everybody realizes that when this guy, he's actually poison to everybody who he interacts with. Yeah, honestly, if that's the case, I hope you all talk about him more. I hate the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you speak, the way you dress.
I lost 6 figures because of my position on Israel, to get a good investment into my show. We have a new project we're working on. I can talk about that a little bit later. But the people were just very pro-Zionist, and they didn't want to put the money involved. And I just said, look, I'm not going to change my view on this subject. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm saying what I think is true, and we're going to stick to that. I've always had Nick on, knowing that it could cause problems. It did cause problems, so I don't blame people who don't. And this is where I think people that don't have anything to lose become self-righteous, and this is why I don't judge people. Because you know what? Losing shit or having problems in your life, or even just losing an advertiser because you wanted to have a guest on your show. Most shows, their goal is not free speech. Their goal is not to talk to controversial figures. Their goal is to make money and to make entertainment. And if that entertainment gets in the way of making money, then they don't want to have them on. So I don't blame people whose goal is to make money without having them on.
We only have a few minutes, and I do want to read some super chats. And you do got Australian gifts, which is a total 180 in the conversation. But two things happen when you have Nick Fuentes on the show. The first is you get security threats. And this means that for anyone who's got employees.
Yeah, like in CPAC, how that's a big reason why they don't let him in or any of those right-wing shows, because every other time that a show happens and he's involved in some way, even like tangentially, there's like bomb threats, there's death threats, and then they have to have extra security. Just like that guy, like I said earlier, who threatened to bomb CPAC in Florida, and then they found CP on his computer when they had to go get him. That's just the life that you live when you're a conservative content creator, I guess.
Employees are
You always have
contractors.
the looming poison, the stink cloud that is always over you. This guy, this kid. Oh, talk shows love money. Whoa, yeah, intellectual juggernaut. Yeah, right.
And insurance, you now have an obligation to spend what could be hundreds of thousands of dollars because of those threats, and you don't know how long that will last. Second is the advertisers get attacked, which means you won't even have the money to hire the security in the first place. My point, and then we'll go to super chats and your gifts just to wrap things up, is I don't really believe that Nick's fans are destroying him this way. I think it's the people who hate him who are trying to cause problems to make that happen. But maybe I'm wrong. How about you bring up your goodies while super chats?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to say this, but first I'll give the nice gift. I brought for the group here a Cape Byron Australian single malt whiskey. Sorry guys, I'm a little under
That is wild, dude. Holy crap. Bro's getting eviscerated. Well, that's Tim. That's Tim, apparently. Oh, and they're calling him a snake and a loser? Holy crap.
No, not that one. Oh, no, don't bring us on the show. I don't give a fuck. Says, we all bring you on because no one will debate. Shut the fuck.
By the way, lots of the shit in this video, screenshots included, could be fake. Text exchanges could be fake. It's impossible to mark anything as real. The Larsonian hole is a deep, eldritch horror of a hole. There are a lot of fake things out there, so, you know. The world has lost its strongest soldier, one who walked day and night against its corruption, a man by the name of Daniel Larson.
Bing, bong, bing, bong.
A man with nothing but a phone and a dream.
The only place that might be suitable for me is an asylum.
And it seems like the dream has finally come to an end. I made a video on Daniel Larson about 1.5 years ago. And I deleted it immediately because I was like, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have made this video. He commented immediately on the video about 50 times saying he was under attack. And I felt bad. I felt less like someone doing research and showing people something that I found interesting and more like someone who's taking advantage of someone who is extremely mentally unwell.
This message is for Joe Biden. I want to say I'm sorry for the threats.
But now he's the burden of the taxpayers because he's in prison. So, he won't see this. He won't see this video, and it's fine, and it's a cautionary tale. And quite frankly, it's just like Chris Chan at this point. It's a fucking lol. It's crazy. It's a lolcat. It's absolutely insane.
To get the full story on Chris Chan and the expanded CWC universe, you would need to catch up on the ongoing comprehensive history by Gino Samuel 2.1, which currently stands at 65 episodes, each approximately 40 minutes in length.
I'm gonna do my best to be honest with the information here and express to you guys my appreciation for the story of Daniel Larson, because it's been a long one and I've been there since the very beginning, even talking to the man himself on a few occasions. You're probably familiar with Daniel Larson in some form or another.
I'm currently under attack. I'm trying to take down the impersonators, and they planned a full-scale cyber attack on me. Anyways, I will try to give updates.
His chronicles have been available publicly for an extended period of time. As I mentioned, on TikTok, you've probably seen him scroll across your page talking about being under attack.
I just got notified that Rick Yorn at LBI Entertainment, who is the CEO, has called the head manager and the CEO of all Olive Gardens, and you're fired.
Or attacking someone, or just something up, screaming, something like that.
He said, give me a second.
okay? And you're threatening me, and I'm not gonna leave. Okay, and I literally said, I said, give me a second.
It used to be a lot more lighthearted, and it's really
peaking in high school, or really just high school in general. Now, I have not been in high school for a while, and I'm kind of approaching the era of my life in which Hollywood might consider me something of a geriatric hag. And I'm not trying to be one of those influencers who's like, that awkward moment when you forget your math notebook in class, and then, like, meanwhile the influencer is 35 and on their second divorce. But I was just reflecting upon, you know, that era of my life because I saw a TikTok that was like a nostalgia TikTok, and it was talking about, like, just like high school and like, oh, the football game and homecoming and and so it got me thinking about it. High school is a transformative time, although I would argue that your 20s are more transformative, but you know, you're kind of starting that transition into, you know, a kid becoming an adult, or you know, a kid becoming a slightly older kid who thinks they are an adult. And I also feel like there's this weird emphasis on your high school years because the mainstream media is just obsessed with high school for some reason. I think, you know, it's a very easy setting to write a narrative in, right? So we have a bunch of movies and TV that are all centered around like high schoolers. I mean, coming of age is practically an entire genre that is dedicated to this period of time. Of course, you know, I love a good coming of age story no matter what, and you know, coming of age can resonate with anyone in a general audience, no matter what their age is. But Hollywood consistently putting this emphasis on youth and the experiences that you have in the teenage years and all of this stuff, I could see how, as a high schooler, you would feel this pressure to kind of be like, oh, I'm supposed to be like experiencing a lot of these things, like my first kiss and romance and partying and all this stuff. And young people might feel like, you know, oh, this is going to be a super significant time of my life, and you know, this should be something that I need to cherish and cling on to. And meanwhile, as you grow up into a proper adult, you think back to high school and you're like, I'm gonna be honest, it's all a blur. Also, a lot of these television shows and movies, they seriously are just pieces of fiction, right? You know, they really fabricate or glorify these teenage years when, you know what, a lot of us, we weren't kissing anyone, we weren't partying, a lot of us were sitting our asses down and studying. Get up and get your ass to work. No one wants to go to work anymore these days. You know, for melodrama, the theatrics of it all, they are having, you know, these characters that are in high school do these things that are not always representative of the general high school experience. Society has really put this emphasis on doing things while you're young. You know, you got to do this while you're young. You know, you only have so many years and the clock is a-ticking and global warming and everything's going to be destroyed and this or that. And while I do understand that, because honestly, global warming and everything might be destroyed. But also, you know, people are always like, you're only young once, right? But then it's like, you're only old once too. Like, I don't know, like, everything's only once. We only have one life. Ever heard of that thing called YOLO? Yeah, Zac Efron has a tattoo of it. Why don't you educate yourself and check it out? For those of you who are in high school, or even college, honestly, you know, I want to ease the pressure you may feel about needing to experience all of these different things while you're young, right? Because you simply have a lot of time left. Hi, this is the guidance counselor's office, right? It sure is, and you are Amanda? Yeah, sadly. Well, I am so happy that you made an appointment with me. You know, you're the first student who's ever... Okay, if I'm seeing you when I don't have to, that means something is seriously wrong. Okay, you should not be happy about it. Right. Noted. Okay, so what exactly brings you in today? I mean, I guess just normal teen stuff. You know, I just feel like my life is insignificant and I have nothing to offer to myself or those around me, and the space that my soul takes up on this mortal plane is basically just a waste of potential. Oh, okay, wow. I just thought you were gonna ask me about like college admissions or something. I just feel like everything is so miserable and boring. Math class? Who gives a fuck? I thought these were supposed to be the best years of my life, like on TV. TV? Yeah, like in Gossip Girl, they're always always having these amazing parties and kissing hot people. In Riverdale, they're always having these weird, kooky adventures and kissing hot people. And then in Euphoria, they're always doing hard drugs and kissing hot people. And then in Pretty Little Liars, they're always kissing hot people too. And like sometimes those people are your teachers. Okay, well, you know, let's not glorify those experiences. That shouldn't be goals for you, just so we're clear. Listen, you have your whole life ahead of you. High school is not everything, okay? Not even close, all right? I mean, in fact, these will probably be the worst years of your life. What? Or, so to the main thing that I wanted to talk about, I mean, the concept of peaking in high school, to be candid, it is just depressing as fuck. And I mean, not to brag, right? But my life has just gotten so much exponentially better since when I was in high school. And I can't imagine looking back on those years and being like, yeah, that was the top of the mountain for me. That was the peak of my life. High school is so early in your life, you know? That's like watching a movie and being like, yeah, my favorite part was the opening credits. Everything after that, it was just downhill. I mean, of course, during that time, you know, I made some lifelong friends. I made some good memories, but it doesn't necessarily bring me a rush of serotonin to think about waking up at 6:30 a.m. and then falling asleep and drooling on my desk during the Pledge of Allegiance. I stood up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry, that was a joke. I feel like I have to clarify. But even if, like, who cares? It's weird that we do that anyway. When I think about certain things that mattered to me in high school, it's, like, astounding how much it does not matter and how much it just doesn't take up any space in my mind now, you know? Like, when I was in high school, I was worried and having heart palpitations over how much varsity playing time I had in lacrosse. Like, girl, who gives a fuck? Or I remember I got cut from the freshman year basketball team, and mind you, like, I was a decent athlete, okay? It was like, when I got cut, it was kind of like a shock. It shocked and shook the nation. It was like when a fan favorite gets voted off from a reality TV show. It's like, no, why would you do that? No, I'm over-exaggerating. People were bummed, I think, but no one was, like, rioting over it. But I remember I got cut. I got snipped, like a vasectomy, right? And I was crying so bad, like hyperventilating, eyes puffy, like so upset. And then I remember my one friend, she's very sweet, and she's religious, right? She looked me dead in my eyes and said, Emily, don't worry. This is all a part of God's plan. And I was like, yeah, for sure. You know, me getting cut from the freshman high school basketball team it's in the New Testament, for sure. God dealing with starvation, war, and pediatric cancer. God dealing with me trying out for the freshman year basketball team. Trust you will be dealt with. But the point is, you know, all of my triumphs and my pitfalls from however many years ago, they in no way stick with me now. So I can't imagine clinging on to things from that point in my life. Like, even the more developmentally tangible things that I was dealing with during that time, like growing up LGBT in an environment that wasn't always very accepting really ever. And then, you know, growing up as an Asian girl in like a very, very white neighborhood and things like that. Like, even those things that were affecting like my personhood, it's just something that happened in the past and something that I've moved past. So I can't imagine things like being the captain of the football team and stuff like that, you know, remaining to be things that I would cling on to and show off to people. Hey girl, are you guys taking any job applications? You know, I really don't know, but do you have any experience in outpatient dermatology? Yeah, actually, before my pyramid scheme failed, I was a CNA for 6 months, and I did get fired, though, for breaking HIPAA because I was posting my patients on my Instagram story for my followers to rank by hotness and also to vote on who they thought deserved to live the most. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you probably shouldn't open with that. Well, I was just telling you about my experience. I think that we're probably good. Would you just take a look at my resume? Please. Thank you. This is written in Sharpie. Varsity cheerleader and prom queen. They're both from like 25 years ago. And you misspelled varsity. Okay, well, I'm not Einstein, so. And for your references, it says, just ask around. Yeah, everyone in this town knows who I am. Okay, seriously, they all know about my greatest achievements that are listed there, so. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just trying to clarify. Your greatest achievements of your entire life are from high school. Yeah, aren't everyone's? Are you kidding me? I would give anything to go back. I mean, high school is like the best years of your life. Definitely not for all of us. Well, that's not really my problem. Okay, well, we're not hiring. Sorry. Oh, listen. I was popular and I was prom queen, and I'm sorry if that bothers you. It sounds like it does because you were probably a loser who ate lunch alone in the bathroom and tried to commit suicide because boys didn't like you. But guess what? That's not my problem. Being prom queen over a decade ago, it's not really the most valuable achievement. Well, where's your crown? Okay, what did you have? A 4.0 GPA and a full-ride academic scholarship to university. Girl, no one gives a fuck about that. I'm sorry, what is it exactly that you currently have? Herpes. Oh, God. From the high school quarterback as proof that I was varsity cheerleader. So, how about that for a fucking reference? I personally don't have anyone in my life that I would consider that they peaked in high school or that they consider that they peaked in high school, though I'm not sure anyone would openly admit that. But because I don't really interact with people who have peaked in high school, it got me wondering okay, so what are some indicators that someone has peaked in high school? And so, I went on to the best journalistic resource that I could find, Reddit. So a few things some people said were bragging about high school hookups in their 30s. Yeah, totally relate, The only reason I'm not constantly talking about, all the hookups I had in high school is just because there's too many of them to choose from, so I can't really, sort through them all because I was just, I was hooking up a lot. I did a lot of that, hooking up and such. My ex-stepmother constantly bragged about being a cheerleader in high school and winning a beauty walk. She was still bragging about these things the last time I saw her. She is in her mid-40s. One guy I knew literally got our school emblem and mascot and a huge class of 2010 tattooed on his shoulder. Anyone who bullies other adults as if they were in high school. The people that ask you to join those MLM schemes, selling body wraps or the like. Anyone that has a Salt Life decal on their car when they live nowhere near the ocean or even a salt mine. Cop uniform. But anyways, this got me thinking about high school reunions, right? And on my first instinct, I was like, oh, a high school reunion, that would be heaven for these people because they were God. A lion returning to its den, right? A noble returning to the kingdom of which I once ruled. Everyone trembled in fear as I sauntered down the corridor in my Nike shorts in the middle of January. I don't even know if my high school had a reunion, honestly, and even if they did, I would only maybe go if I happen to already be in the area, But that's the thing with people who peaked in high school. They're likely already in the area because they never left. But honestly, the more I thought about high school reunions, maybe it wouldn't be a good place for someone who peaked in high school because, to show up in a room full of people to show that your life has only gone downhill, I personally would not want to show my face. Perhaps if the high school reunion was a masquerade ball, then maybe I would go. Imagine everyone remembering you as this huge hotshot, king of these four walls, and then when you show up years later, it's just what happened? God, man, I used to rule these fucking halls. Seriously, I mean, I could have stepped onto that football field and I could have told everyone in the crowd, line up and lick my cleats. lick the grass off of my cleats, and I swear to God they would have done it. They would have done it, totally. Right. Anyway, Amanda, you were talking about your cancer research? Yeah, we're trying to optimize early diagnostic testing. That's our main goal. And, it just makes me think about when my dad passed away of cancer. I could have gone pro if I didn't get that hangnail senior year. What? The NFL? That was my path, dude. I could have been hanging with Travis Kelce and Tay-Tay, going on double dates and shit if I didn't get that injury. a hangnail. But you know what? My Letterman jacket still fits. Still got it. That's great news. I'm really happy for you. Yup, made sure of it. And I did it the old-fashioned way. Gave myself an eating disorder. Wow, that's not good. You should not do that. A king must always fit his crown. You know, like what can I say? Sorry, what is it that you do now? What? Like, I know that you were prom king and varsity football captain and, you know, all that stuff, but what do you do now? Like, for a living? You know, like, she has her cancer research and I do my stuff at the UN. You know, what do you do? Like, nowadays, you know, Mr. King of the Hallways. Oh, right, yeah, you're right, the cancer. Yeah, you know, I run the concession stand for the football games here. Yeah, they don't pay me, but I don't really mind. So. Okay. Yeah. You know, I wanted to coach, but like, fuck that shit. Right? You guys know how it is. How is it? We don't know how it is. Oh, well, you know, they gave me a trial run and everything, but then, you know, long story short, they accused me of having an abusive coaching style just because I would, you know, tell the boys that they could never live up to my legacy, which is not me being abusive, it's me being honest. I would also hit them with a metal yardstick. You know, everyone is just so sensitive these days. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah. Liberal snowflakes. Right. Totally. Right. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. I'm not. I'm really not. I know this video might seem, you know, in some aspects, maybe a little bit mean because, you know, it's like kicking someone while they're down sort of vibe. But you know, people who peaked in high school, I feel bad for you. Yeah, I feel bad for you.
But a shout out to everybody who peaked in high school. I kind of feel sorry for you. Oh, yeah.
And I think when we think about people who have peaked in high school, right, we mainly think about bullies, people who are maybe mean, and, you know, it's just people who we don't really mind pointing and laughing that much, you know, but there are people who I'm sure who feel like their uptick was in their teenage years because maybe they truly just are having like a rough adulthood and they are, you know, finding the transition to be difficult. It's hard to find a job these days. Maybe you had a death in the family, whatever. And, you know, and in that case, I do truly hope that things turn around and you know, there's a lot of life to live yet. So no matter who you are, maybe you are a vile, heinous bully and you were, you know, burning your victims with curling irons on their necks like in The Glory. If you are a person like that, maybe unsubscribe. I don't need you in my community. If you're in a dip right now, you know, I encourage you and give you support to take actions to make some achievements for the future so you don't have to cling on to those in the past. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Were you guys popular in high school? I think I was average. I think that people knew my name, but they didn't particularly care if I was in a room or not.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, the date was Easter Sunday, which was April 5th, 2015. That's when we start. That day, Victoria Cilliers was doing something she had done time and time again when she visited an airfield in Salisbury Stake, UK. She was there with her husband Emil and their 2 young children. That parachute dive she'd done thousands of times at this point, did not go well for Vicky. She did not know that her parachute was broken when she jumped out of an airplane at 3,000 feet, hurtling towards the ground. Somebody had finagled her parachute. And this was not the first time somebody had tried to do something to our Vicky. Let's give it a go. Victoria was an experienced skydiver and kind of an all-round, pretty impressive human being. Fair play to you. Victoria worked for the Ministry of Defence in Britain as a physiotherapist. Vicky was an AFF instructor. That stands for Accelerated Free Fall Instructor. That means she was trained to correct people, who are doing skydives, and if they have a malfunction or a problem, she'd be kind of like keeping an eye on everybody and be able to go over, help me out there, while falling through the air. Very high speeds. She'd be able to catch people in midair. Basically, she was shit hot at jumping out of planes. By 2015, Vicky Cilliers had more than 2,500 successful skydive attempts. Though, I suppose if you're gonna have an unsuccessful skydive attempt, you probably just have one. In each of those over 2,000, jumps, parachute jumps, she never once had to use her reserve chute. Her chutes, though, were always regularly inspected. Not once was a single minor fault or issue found, let alone something which could have led to a catastrophic failure. And if anybody knew how to deal with a parachute malfunction, her. Equally, if you wanted somebody to pack your chute, you'd call him the Vixter. On this occasion in particular, April 2015, Emil, hubby, had paid for and booked the Easter weekend jump. The couple had been going through a bit of a rough patch, and Victoria saw it as Emil offering an olive branch and thought that maybe they could use it, as a starting point to help rebuild their relationship. Spoiler alert, though, Emil saw it as kind of like the reverse of that. The jump was originally supposed to take place on April 4th, which was a Saturday, but bad weather, it is England. So that pushed it to the following day. It was wet, it was windy, it was very, very cloudy. And so the next day, which was the Sunday, the weather was still pretty bad. So this time Vicky suggested, how about we do a hop and pop? What they call a hop and pop. A hop and pop, for those dummies out there who don't know about parachuting, it's rather than jump out at the usual 13,000 feet, you jump out at 3,000 feet. So it's like a bit of a difference there. So you jump out and essentially you pull your parachute as soon as you're out the door. If you're jumping at 13,000 feet, you jump out, you free fall, maybe do some cool flips and shit. This time though, you're just out, gone. So they reached there, having a great time. They reached the appropriate altitude, and one at a time they hopped out of the side of the plane and popped the parachute. Smiles all around, the rush, the adrenaline was pumping. Then it was Vicky's turn, and with a huge smile on her face and zero fear, she jumped out of the aircraft. After only a handful of seconds in the air, falling at 120 miles per hour, 200 kilometers per hour, Vicky's heart fell even quicker, because she immediately noticed something was very, very wrong. What's going on here? Her parachute didn't deploy. She was free falling for a full minute with a broken parachute on her back. That was before she smashed into the ground. The others had seen her falling. They knew she should have deployed her parachute by now, and she hadn't. Those who had set off in the direction of Vicky's landing before she'd even hit the deck weren't going with a rescue operation in mind. As far as everyone was thinking at that very moment, it was a case of retrieving her body. They'd even taken a body bag with them. In their mind, they were thinking of an eerily similar case that had happened just 12 years earlier to a guy who also used to jump regularly at the same airfield. He had died during a jump, and it's hella rare to die during a parachute jump, so it's weird it would happen twice. 20-year-old Stephen Hilder, an experienced parachutist, died on July 4th, 2003 in Lincolnshire after his chute and reserve failed just like Vicky's had. His fall was considerably higher than Vicky's had been. he had fallen from the regular 13,000 feet. At first, Stephen Hilder's death was treated as suspicious, and a murder inquiry was launched. His chute had been 100% tampered with. A lot of the lines, snip, snip, snipperoo. Ultimately, though, after a 10-month investigation in which 3 people were charged, arrested, and then released, it was kind of ultimately determined that Stephen had done it to himself. The scissors used to cut the lines that was found in his car trunk, and only his DNA was found on the parachute. It's believed he was quite depressed at the time, so he thought, what a way to go. Hey, he loved parachuting, so not much better ways to go. However, the ruling on Stephen Hilder's death, it's still kind of questioned by some of his friends, other people involved are like, did he do it to himself though? Did he though? So now it was on a repeat when Vicky's parachute failed to deploy. Everyone was booking it to where she had landed, but Booty, to their absolute astonishment, she was still alive. Fortunately, Victoria had landed in a freshly plowed field, which, coupled with the low altitude jump, likely saved her life. Don't get me wrong, she was in a very, very bad way. She had a broken spine, a pretty much pulverized pelvis, and several snapped ribs, but she was still breathing. A helicopter was quickly dispatched to get her to hospital. Naturally, everyone was shook. Nobody around her had seen anything like this before, especially when those around her who saw when her parachute was unfurled. A lot of the lines were knotted together, which wouldn't happen naturally. It seemed pretty clear almost from the start that her parachute had been tampered with by a human.
That's just tangled up in the lines, isn't it? I've never seen anything like that before.
But that can't have been there when she deployed.
No, it wasn't there when she deployed. I think that, I don't know.
The risers on the reserve chute were also severed. In fact, there was a number of issues with both her primary and reserve chute that led the investigators to think this was deliberate, as there was no signs of stress on the rigging, which would lead you to think it was natural or just wear and tear. The investigation into the almost tragedy began right there and then where it had almost taken place. See, anybody could have accessed the parachutes before the jump, but they couldn't have accessed it without being seen, and several people said they saw Vicky's husband Emil get her parachute and go into the bathroom with it and be in there for 10 minutes with her chute. What's he doing in there? Are they under toilet paper? I don't think so. When the decision was made to postpone the jump due to bad weather, Emil insisted on taking the rig with them rather than leaving it there at the base with the others, which was normal protocol. There was basically no reason to not leave the chute secured with the other parachutes. So if Emil had done it, why would he want to kill his wife in such a spectacular and horrific way? You probably have one of them good ideas already. There's a famous saying, there's only 2 reasons ever for murder, and we've seen a lot of murder on that chapter, and that's money and good old sex. Sexy money. In this case, it was both. Emil worked as a physical training instructor for the Royal Artillery, and himself and Victoria had been married for 4 years, having tied the knot in Emil's native South Africa in 2011. It's fair to say that, the relationship wasn't exactly healthy from the get-go. Pretty much right out the gate, Emil was having an affair with an Austrian skydiving instructor named Stephanie Goller. He had met Goller on good old Tinder when he was away skiing. Now, when the investigation began into the obvious tampering and the attempted murder, well, eyes went straight towards the husband. They always do. Emil knew the police would discover his affair, and so he was open about it with the police from Jump Street.
Tell me about your relationship with Victoria.
It's not a marriage that I would want to be in anymore. I can't see myself being in the marriage in 10, 15 years' time. I've got quite a high sex drive. My wife, Victoria, she's got a very low sex drive. We struggle to have sex more than twice a week. I met a girl, Stephanie. It was just a friendship to start with, and then it got a little bit more serious.
In fact, Emil had a few girls on the kind of poll, which is surprising. Emil was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder, but he was eventually released on bail. He was released on bail with the stipulation that he absolutely have no contact with his wife Victoria while she was recuperating in hospital. I mean, they believed he had tried to kill her. Victoria had a huge problem with that because she openly was like, he didn't do it. He didn't do nothing. Victoria was standing by her man. Once the investigation, though, kicked into full gear and they got Emil's phones, the whole kind of kit and caboodle, well, the floodgates opened. Get this, folks, not only had Emil and Stephanie, his mistress, during a 6-month period, exchanged tens of thousands of messages. 32,000 messages to be specific in 6 months. Who has time to send that many messages? Who has the time for this shit? It wasn't just the amount of messages, it was also the content. With Emil saying to Goller that he couldn't wait to be with her, even when he was, at Victoria's bedside while she was completely smashed up. He was still texting Stephanie saying he couldn't wait to be with her. And messages from before the parachuting accident. He had texted Stephanie saying, in April, I'll be free.
To Steph, from April onwards, I can do random and spontaneous. What was the significance about April in that context?
Random and spontaneous.
She says, what's the big link in April? What have you promised her? Tell me.
I don't... That I would be... I don't know. You're probably going to tell me.
Be what?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Where was the parachute when you got to the locker?
I can't remember.
Okay. And what did you do when you were at the locker?
I really answered that question before.
And you're not willing to go through it again? You went to get Victoria a parachute?
Yes.
Tell me about the checks you did.
It's just standard checks as you should do as a parachutist.
Okay, well tell me what those standard checks are. I don't know, I don't parachute.
Okay, I'm sure you can investigate and ask the right questions to the right people in regards to checking a parachute.
Okay, I'm asking you,
I can't remember.
because you obviously did the checks.
I would just do the standard checks.
What are those standard checks?
In addition to his full-blown affair with Stephanie Goller, Emil was also sleeping with his ex-wife, Carly, on a fairly regular basis. He was also constantly using adult work to search for local sex workers and fab swingers to look for local swingers. Busy man, bust the nut Emil, they called him. I mean, that's what I would call him.
Friendly precision airstrike inbound.
Flash grenade! Taking fire!
Amazing he found all the time to sleep with his wife, his girlfriend, his ex-wife, and then of course all the women he found for hookups online. He had a job and a YouTube channel too, where he serenaded viewers with his musical skills. Now it makes sense how he got the chicks. A little something extra for the ladies were his workout vids. And he also uploaded COD videos. And all the while he was doing his thing, here's his kinky online advert featuring his chests, where he says he is a, quote, a very well-endowed male and I like to keep in shape and have a very athletic body. What a guy. Police also discovered that Emil, not only was he apparently, I guess, addicted to sex, just, always had to be fucking somebody, he also had a lot of debt. He was over 20 grand in the hole. Actual professional financial investigators couldn't even unravel the complicated web and come up with the real total, as Emil had been moving money between numerous accounts for several years, almost on a daily basis. No one knew the actual extent of his finances or his debt. It was just so convoluted. Emil owed money, not only in personal debts to his wife and family, but to also several payday lenders. You know, those like, money lenders, the predatory money lenders who were, that kind of shit. Those. He was mad for that. As always, though, Victoria, she got the worst. He had taken from her about 19 grand. which he had no intention of paying back. Now, it's his wife, but he would just transfer money out of her account without her knowing. One time when Victoria logged into her bank account and saw she was missing £6,000, she was like, what's going on here? Who stole my money? And Emil said, you know, you just try to gaslight her and say, oh, you've been hacked or something. When the bank investigated it, they found, well, it led straight to Emil. But then Emil just like love-bombed Victoria yet again after she realized he'd stolen his money and kind of got away with everything scot-free. He got away with a lot of things scot-free, actually, for a good long time. However, Victoria eventually had enough of suspicions around Emil, especially regarding money, that she eventually removed him from her will, so that all of her shit would go to her kids. It's about £120,000. Everything would go to the kids. I don't think Emil knew that he had been removed as the beneficiary, because if he did know that, he probably wouldn't have done what he did. Or at least in not like such a convoluted way of finagling her parachute. You know, maybe something a lot more simple, subtle, accidental, like a gas leak, perhaps. Boom, we got one. When the police visited Vicky during their investigation to once again try to persuade her about what a monster Emil actually was, they went through, you know, all the evidence they'd gathered from his phone, told her everything about his multiple affairs with Stephanie, with his ex-wife, with sex workers, pretty much anything that had a pulse. All of his money issues, financial issues, all of the shit she didn't know. She was still standing behind him at this point, couldn't imagine he would tamper my parachute. But it was during that conversation that she told the police something about like, you know, it's kind of weird because about a week before the parachute jump, something kind of strange had happened. She thought it was weird that one night Emil, he told her he wasn't going to come home, he was going to crash at the Royal Artillery Barracks, which he did regularly. He told her, you know, Vicky, I'm not coming home tonight. Now, in reality, of course, he was with one of the people he was having sex with. But he told her he was at the barracks. And then, you know, so Vicky was like, fine, whatever. She went to bed. Vicky then woke up the next morning and strong smell of gas in the house. She went down to check the valve, saw it was wide open and there was blood on the valve. She texted Emil about finding the gas leak and saying, are you trying to kill me? Emil did not joke like a normal person would. He got extremely defensive and said, the officers investigated, they found the blood was still on the gas valve in their home. They tested the blood, it was Emil's. It was obvious via inspection that somebody had broken it open, hence why his blood was on it, rather than it just being an accident. Emil was saying he had tightened it recently, but if it came loose, you know, maybe it was traffic. You know, they're doing construction down the road. Maybe, you know, a jackhammer broke it or something. Because they usually jackhammer in the middle of the night. My fucking construction workers do.
When was the last time you used your locking pliers? Can't remember. What was it for?
You just asked me when's the last time I used it, and now you ask me what for. And when I said I can't remember when I last used them, how can I remember what I used them for?
You might not remember when you used them, you might remember what you used them for. That's what I'm asking. Totally admit this is the first thing you were just trying to see if it was loose. You told us today that you use mole grips, locking pliers, yeah? On the nuts. We recovered a pair of mole grips from your toolbox locking pliers. Okay. There were no other similar tools. Okay. A forensic expert has stated in relation to the mole grips, which are exhibit MWB/5/MH/26, the mole grips locking pliers, that conclusively the locking pliers were used to forcibly grip and loosen one of the nuts in the gas fitting. Okay. Help me understand how that is possible from your account about tightening the nuts.
I did say before I didn't know which way to turn it, and I tried both directions, which didn't budge them.
He says it loosened. Explain that.
I don't see how he could say it loosened it, because when the gas engineer was there, I assumed he loosened the whole thing and checked the seals and everything. I don't know what his procedure is.
The same forensic expert has provided evidence to state there is no indication that exhibit NJB5MH26, the same mole grips locking pliers, has been used to tighten either of the nuts in the gas fitting. He's saying those pliers have not been used to tighten either of the nuts in the gas fitting.
Right.
Help me understand how that's possible from your account.
I don't know. If I turned it the wrong way then.
You were quite certain. You said it didn't move.
Yes, it didn't.
You said you tried to turn it both ways.
Yes. I did. But yeah, there's no indication that he used to try to tighten. Okay. Explain that. I can't.
His second attempt to murder his wife Vicky is, it's actually more cruel and psychotic. Because even though it's a lot simpler than the convoluted parachute murder plot, the gas leak one was his kids were in the house, sleeping upstairs. So the gas could have killed them by just smothering them to death, or if somebody had lit a match. The house would have, not only Vicky would have been killed, his own kids would have been killed too, and he obviously didn't give a shit. Maybe he would have messed with his kids' parachutes if they had been there, who knows?
Emil Cilliers, seen here on the left, is accused of trying to murder his ex-wife so that he could be with his lover, something Mr. Cilliers denies. The court heard Victoria Cilliers was one of the UK's top parachutists, but prosecutors say her husband tried to kill her by tampering with her parachute. Mr. Cilliers is alleged to have sabotaged both his wife's main parachute and her reserve chute the day before the jump.
Despite Emil having 6 children to 3 women, and as a result a rather large extended family, when the case came to trial after a 2-year investigation, not one single person testified in his favor. He was so toxic nobody still had a good word to say about Emil. Speaking of all of his children, 2 of them were born in South Africa. That was to one of his first girlfriends, Nicoline Shepherd, who Cilliers met when the two were growing up in a Johannesburg township in South Africa. He was 17 when they met. She was, 13. They had their first daughter when Nicoline was only 16 years of age, and after she gave birth via C-section, like 10 days, like less than a week after, Emil was already saying, listen, let's bust the Glock. They quickly had another kid before Emil abandoned her. He went to Britain on holiday and just decided he was going to stay there, because there he met Carly, who would be his first wife. He joined the British Army, never bothered to contact Nicoline or his 2 children back in South Africa. She found out through family that he had left her and was now living in a different country with a new woman. Amazingly, after Nicoline Shepherd herself moved to the UK a few years later, in 2004, the two ended up back in touch and began seeing each other once again. He claimed himself and Carly were over and in the middle of a divorce. That once again was of course a load of bollocks. Eventually, Emil's lies about his women caved in on him when he left his phone out and Carly rang. Nicoline answered and the 2 women had a very interesting conversation. They confronted Emil together and as always he blamed them, taking 0 responsibility. Then of course he left Carly and eventually wound up with Victoria, who wound up jumping out of an airplane with a broken parachute. Despite Nicoline cutting all contact, he would still message her from time to time saying, hey, you wanna Netflix and chill? Well, at the same time, he was still having sex with Carly after they divorced. He was married to Vicky and he was seeing escorts all the time. Actually, it's kind of impressive. Emil pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of attempted murder, one for the gas attempt, another for the parachute plot. The prosecution in fact had so much evidence from Emil's phone, it had taken place more than 9 months to actually go through it all.
These are the tangled remains of Victoria Cilliers' parachute rig. The court heard her husband had removed 2 vital pieces of equipment known as slinks, which fasten the parachute to the harness. This reconstruction, shown to the jury, showed how Mr. Cilliers took the parachute into a toilet at the airfield and tampered with it.
At the end of his trial, Emil was sentenced to 18 years to life in prison. After all of this, Victoria Cilliers, she wrote a book titled I Survived. She later went on a TV talk show to talk about the book and, you know, how almost writing this book was a form of therapy for her because she'd been through so much psychological and emotional abuse from Emil. He was like the ultimate love bomber, abusive, manipulative piece of shit. So much for watching. It really means the absolute world to me. Listen, hope you enjoyed the video, and that kind of wraps up this one. Please check out the That Chapter podcast if you're looking for something to listen to. There's a new episode out every single Monday, so give it a go. And also I'm on Twitter and Instagram, so check that out. But until the next old video, which will be up in a couple of days, please take care of each other and yourselves, because I love you. forgive.
Well, now they know.
Securing objective Bravo. Enemies. UAV ready to deploy. Western recon. Take cover. Copy that. UAV online and orbiting the air.
Biden sides with Satan.
So there's a very famous story about young Joe Biden, Senator Joe Biden. This is a story from the early 80s. Apparently, in June 1982, Joe Biden was on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The dude's been in the Senate since Cato was in the Senate. And he got into a clash with the Prime Minister of Israel at the time, Menachem Begin. At the time, Israel was going into Lebanon in order to attempt to extirpate terrorism that was coming from southern Lebanon. Again, nothing changes when it comes to the Middle East.
Yeah, you're right. Nothing changes when it comes to the Middle East because Israel is doing Israel shit back then as it's doing Israel shit right now. Whose fault is that, dumbass? Notice how he doesn't have to even give an argument as to why. He doesn't have to actually describe anything about like Israel invading Lebanon or anything like that because it's a given. Lebanon, Muslim, bad. Hezbollah, even though this predates it, doesn't matter. Even though this created Hezbollah, doesn't matter. Lebanon, Muslim, Israel want it, Israel taketh.
Joe Biden was very angry at Menachem Begin. He lectured Menachem Begin over Israeli settlements. And Menachem Begin, his entire family was effectively murdered in the Holocaust. And then he ended up moving to Israel and becoming an underground fighter against the British in an attempt to establish the state of Israel.
An underground fighter? Huh. What is a substitute for the term that Ben is refusing to use there, you guys think? Yeah, listen, you don't understand. Zionists can never be called terrorists. They are underground fighters. Yeah, tunnel boy. But this time, these are not terror tunnels, okay? Like blowing up King David Hotel and killing not only British officers, but also like a shit ton of civilians there. I think it was, 61 or 91 people? That was an act of peaceful terrorism. Remember, because he agrees with it.
And then he was out in the political wilderness for a long time, finally became Prime Minister of Israel. This is a very famous anecdote. Apparently, he then turned to Joe Biden and he said, "Don't threaten us with cutting off aid to give up our principles."
That's not the story. The real story is Joe Biden telling Begin that he should kill more children, basically. And Begin being like, that's too much. We don't do that. When they were doing that. That's the story, right? Isn't that the story that he's talking about? I don't think that he was actually criticizing Israel over settlements because settlements at that point were marginal. What? Wait, did Israel actually make a terrorist that killed British officers, the prime minister? That's horrifying. Wait, what? I mean, I don't even necessarily disagree, to be fair, with what the early Zionist terrorists did to the British. That was relatively more reasonable for them to do so because, like, they wanted unrestricted immigration into Palestine. And the British, in an effort to stop the Arab revolts, was like, no. I think the stuff that they did after to the Arab civilian population, the Palestinians, is like way grosser and unimaginably cruel. I was just bringing that up because, like, no matter what, in any other circumstance, if like a non-Western actor is like doing an act of terror against, England, Ben would lose his mind. He'd be like, that's terrorism. What the fuck? But yes, most Israeli prime ministers early on were terrorists. Most party leadership early on straight up were in terror cells, Zionist terror cells. Anyway, Ben would call that underground fighting cells.
Now, this story is not about Menachem Begin. This story is about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a coward. Joe Biden is a terrible, terrible voice when it comes to foreign policy, and he always has been. There's a reason that former Obama Defense Secretary Robert Gates said that Joe Biden had literally never been correct on foreign policy in his entire life. And that is true. Joe Biden has a unique capacity to screw up when it comes to foreign policy. Joe Biden is weak-kneed. Joe Biden is so weak that he brags about being the only member of the Obama administration to oppose the bin Laden raid. That's how weak Joe Biden is? Well, now Joe Biden is showing his neck to Hamas. And when you talk about unjustifiable acts on every possible level, moral, political, pragmatic, none of it makes any sense. On the moral level, Hamas is a terrorist.
I hope he's going to talk about Israel's actions now, right? Like unjustifiable in every sense of the word.
That is currently holding 5 Americans. There are 5 Americans who are being held.
Israel is a terrorist group currently holding approximately 10,000 Palestinians, which include children as well, and women.
By Yahya Sinwar and his group of barbaric thugs. Their names. I know that Joe Biden doesn't mention their names very often. He will talk about Brittany Griner until the cows come home. But when it comes to 5 Americans who happen to be Jewish who are being held by Hamas.
It's so funny for Ben to say this because the only way to facilitate the release of those Americans is by ceasefire. And the only people currently on the planet that are standing against that is not even the American state. It's just Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet. Tens of thousands of Jews in Israel do not agree with Benny Boy here. Obviously, the entire Western world doesn't agree with Benny Boy here at this point. Literally, he is just alone. And until recently, Joe Biden was on Benny Boy's side, but that was pretty much it. The idea that like there's some magical way of like releasing these hostages and it's just Hamas that's like refusing to give them up is so stupid. Israel and the war cabinet specifically is the only reason why those hostages have not been released and will probably fucking die under Israeli rockets.
Then he won't mention their names. He'll take the occasional photo op with their relatives and pretend that he's going to stand by them, but as we'll learn in a moment, he ain't standing by no one. Their names are Eden Alexander, who is 19 years...
By the way, once again, I was right, but too early when I said Israel absolutely, and defenders of Israel absolutely in the Western world especially, is using these hostages as a fucking reason as to why they will enact righteous cruelty upon the entirety of the Palestinian population as simply a talking point. There's no better example in this because Biden refusing to give 2,000-pound bombs to Israel unironically is better for the betterment of the hostages. Him being like, dude, we're not giving you bunker busters because you're literally wiping out the entire Gaza Strip, including with the hostages inside of the Gaza Strip. We have to put an end to this somehow is unironically a decent way to try and stop Israel from killing more hostages. Ben, on the other hand, is claiming that this is done against the hostages' best interest.
Now, when it comes to the pragmatic, what Joe Biden is doing right now is the least pragmatic thing I've ever seen a politician do on foreign policy. He has created an entire incentive structure for Hamas to walk away from the table. He has created an incentive structure for Hezbollah to get into a war with Israel. He has created an incentive structure whereby, by the way, if Israel goes in, more civilians will die. So what am I talking about here? Yesterday, in what had been a telegraphed move for the last week or so, Joe Biden went on Aaron Burnett's show on CNN, and he proceeded to announce that the United States would remove offensive weaponry from Israel.
Dude, it's crazy. I'm listening to this, and the only thing I can hear, like I'm listening to this screeching as this man, right? And literally the only fucking thing, I can hear is this. He's just like, why won't you give Israel all the weapons it needs, even though you have been doing so for months? Why? Give Israel all the guns. I love Israel so much. Give him all the guns.
Remember, he just signed a bill providing $14 billion in aid to Israel. That bill combined $14 billion in aid to Israel with some $60 billion in aid to Ukraine. And the way that Biden got it over the finish line, along with Speaker Johnson in the House, was by combining those elements. Because it turns out that the Republicans are disproportionately anti-Ukraine aid, but pro-Israel aid. And Democrats are disproportionately anti-Israel aid, but pro-Ukraine aid. Joe Biden has decided unilaterally that in violation of the Impoundment Control Act of 1974, he is simply going to hold up the shipments of weaponry.
Every single lethal aid package that has gone into Israel is in direct violation of America's own rules and restrictions that they've set forward that dictate under the Leahy Act that no weapons transfers being made to a foreign nation, a foreign ally, can be used in committing international human rights abuses. You cannot do war crimes with American weapons. Now, of course, all of our allies commit war crimes with our weapons all the time. That's a joke. But The idea that Joe Biden has no legal basis, the idea that Joe Biden has no legal basis whatsoever to restrict weapons transfers to Israel is ridiculous. There is also subsequently an investigation that America put a timeline on their own for Israel to deliver information on what they were doing with the American weapons. We literally told them yesterday was the deadline, by the way, for this, that by yesterday, Israel has to give a full report on how every single weapon has been used to ensure that no war crimes have been committed. We have now delayed the release of this investigation. Part of the reason why I suspect delayed the release of this investigation is because it puts into legal doctrine, or it puts into legally enforceable contracts directly our culpability in Israel's violations of human rights. Just letting you know that there is more to this conversation than what Ben Shapiro is crying about.
Now, understand, Israel has been attempting to move the civilians out of Rafah so that they can go in and kill terrorists in Rafah. And Joe Biden has opposed that too. So the new math is that the United States will undercut our own democratic allies if terrorists do the most terrorist thing, which is hide behind civilians. He is now creating a full-scale incentive structure for terrorists to hide among civilians because now they are safe from any sort of retaliation. The weapons that he wants to deny to Israel are targeted weapons, the kinds of weapons that minimize...
Big dog, the reason why the terrorists are always safe, no matter where they are in the Gaza Strip, is because they're not children. They're not women and they're not children. If you look at the actual numbers, that's what the majority of the fucking deaths are. The overwhelming majority, as a matter of fact, 2/3. So the quote unquote terrorists, they're fine. They're fine because Israel doesn't have the smoke for actual militants. Israel only has the smoke for babies, for baby murder, which you love, supposedly, it seems. You claim to be anti-abortion and you claim that abortion is baby genocide, and yet you are in support of the greatest facilitator of baby murder that we have seen. The greatest state-sponsored baby murder. You are demanding that the American government continue giving baby murder weapons to Israel, the #1 baby killer on the planet currently.
He is showing daylight between Israel and the United States, sufficient that Hezbollah might think, okay, well, if we open up on the northern front, the United States won't resupply Israel then either. Iran will get more aggressive, not less aggressive. And of course, Hamas will walk away from the table, which apparently they did this morning.
The reason why they walked away from the table is because Israel, contrary to what the American envoys offered to the Hamas side, contrary to what the CIA said to Hamas, in an effort to get them to agree to a ceasefire negotiation, Israel is moving against America's wishes. This is part of the reason why Joe Biden is saying that he would stop the weapons transfers anyway. All of which, by the way, makes it way harder to extract hostages. But Ben, as we've established, doesn't give a fuck. If it meant continuing the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, Ben would kill those American Jews himself. Give him a gun, and he would shoot them point blank if it meant complete destruction of the Gaza Strip. I promise you, he does not give a fuck about those hostages. Because if he did, he would be joining in unison the rest of the Jews in Israel that are currently protesting the Netanyahu war cabinet for doing nothing. But because he simply talks about the hostages as a talking point and he hits the say their names bullshit as though he gives a single shred of a fuck, I'm telling you, if given the option where Ben was like, you get to kill as many Palestinian children as possible, but first you have to shoot through the 5 American Jews that are held hostage by Hamas, he would shoot through them. He wouldn't even think about it. I thought they all supported the flattening of Gaza in Israel. A lot of Israelis do support the flattening of Gaza, except they are also, understandably, very angry at the government because they want a fucking ceasefire so they can actually release the hostages. They're like, bro, you can keep flattening Gaza after you get the fucking hostages out. But in that time frame, the irony is that more people have started also saying, like with Omdim Beyachad, which we showed earlier today, a lot more people have started saying, you know what, actually, we shouldn't keep doing this war, as a matter of fact. Like, their numbers are growing too. So as time continues, The appetite for flattening Gaza is also changing as well. Another dangerous prospect for Benjamin Netanyahu, which is causing him to behave in this incredibly irrational manner right now.
Make no mistake, Joe Biden has sided with Hamas in this conflict. There's only one predictable result of this, and that is the maintenance of Hamas as a political power and a military force in Gaza.
Yeah, dude, Joe Biden loves Hamas. President Biden is actually Hamas. Yeah, that's right. I agree. Israel, do you hear that? I heard there are Hamas terror tunnels under the White House. Israel, Israel, hi, do it. Do what must be done, Israel. Joe Biden is Hamas. Liberate us, Israel.
I want to ask you about something happening as we sit here and speak, and that, of course, is Israel is striking Rafah. I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with
that for a second.
problem.
Okay, so when he says that the bombs have been used to kill civilians in populated areas, or when Israel attacks populated Israel is not attacking populated areas. Israel is actively attempting to move populations from these areas so they can kill terrorists.
Dude. Manifest Destiny, Trail of Terrors was simply the American government moving Indians from one populated area to another. Yes, a lot of them died in the process, but, you know, that's collateral damage. The Americans were simply trying to destroy the terrorist Native Americans. ICC right now, dude, are you kidding me? In a just world, he would literally be treated like Goebbels, okay? Just move. Hey, Palestinians, if you don't want to be murdered by American weapons, just move. Yeah, the Ottomans were just transferring around Armenians to fight terrorists is unironically the Turkish government's official position on the Armenian genocide. Literally. It's considered forcible population transfer of Armenians from the areas that they used to live in to Syria. Ironic because that's also the official Israeli position as well, alongside the Turkish government's position on the Armenian genocide. I wonder why Israel doesn't recognize the Armenian genocide.
I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go into these population centers.
So they're not going to give their support if they go into the population centers, which is why Hamas is hiding in population centers. That is the entire reason they are doing it. So he is now engaging. Let's be clear about this. In a war between a genocidal terrorist group that murdered 1,200 Jews.
Yeah. Hamas is the genocidal entity here, not Israel. They murdered 1,200 Jews. None of them were enemy combatants, of course. They were all civilian enemy combatants, every single one of them. 800 of them were civilians. 400 of them were IDF soldiers, but those were IDF soldier civilians. They also beheaded imaginary babies, 40 of them. They also threw imaginary babies in ovens. They also, with military directive from Hamas leadership, engaged in mass rape. He's just hallucinating all these things, while simultaneously the counter is like, okay, Hamas killed 800 civilians, 400 military atrocities on October 7. Israel has done 40 October 7 since then. If October 7 is genocidal, you got to find a new word for what Israel's level of genocidal is. Israel's doing something worse than genocide, if that's the case.
And is currently holding 133 hostages. Most of them surely are corpses by now, but that includes some live.
Yeah, how'd they die? How'd they die? How'd they die? Our weapons that Israel deployed on the Palestinian civilian population. We killed them, asshole. All right, I can't do the rest of this. I can't stand this dumb.
Okay,
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming back if you've been here before, or hi, welcome if you're new. My name's Mickey. I'm a therapist, and we talk about therapy things on this channel. And today, we're talking about something that's a little different. I don't know if you guys are on the same side of TikTok that I am, but I am being plagued by videos made by one particular man that we're going to talk about, trust and believe. But this did sort of open a can of worms for me in regards to alpha dating advice. If you've been on the channel for any length of time, you will know that not only is this an inclusive and like anti-misogynistic place, but also that I've talked about folks like this in the past. I will link that video up here in case you want to watch that. But this felt like the last person that we talked about to the nth degree. So we're gonna watch some TikToks today and talk about all of the problematic advice that exists in the alpha dating advice corner of the internet, and hopefully give you guys some red flags to look out for when we talk about dating. For those of you who don't know, I'm polyamorous, and so I do sometimes spend time on dating apps, and like trust and believe that I was shocked and horrified to learn actually like the depths of depravity that exist on dating apps like this. So now more than ever, I feel passionately about hopefully providing people with some good advice about what to look out for and things to avoid and things like that. So really quick, before we get into these videos, I want to give you a quick disclaimer that first of all, we're talking about this with the purpose of being educational. It goes without saying, please don't look up these people. Don't go find these people and harass these people. That's not the point of this video. I do make a conscious effort to try to talk about people who have like a following, who are making the conscious choice to put themselves out there on the internet as an influencer, rather than just like innocent bystanders who happen to have terrible takes. But still, don't harass people. This is not an invitation to go find these people. I'm going to try to censor their identifying information to some degree to avoid that. But again, we're talking about this with the purpose of being educational, and again, like trying to, educate and like improve ourselves and our own relationships. That said, we're going to talk about this video. There are 3 videos here that I want to show you. We'll start with this one.
Belief needs to be deeply ingrained in your head in order for you to get good with women. I'm a professional dating coach, and I teach guys how to understand the female mind. The belief is as follows. Now, a lot of you are going to fucking pull back from it, but you need to fucking learn it. There's no way you're going to get my numbers in both quantity and quality if you do not have this belief.
Just bizarro behavior. Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for coming back if you've been here before, or hi, welcome if you're new. My name's Mickey. I'm a therapist, and we talk about therapy things on this channel. Today, we are talking about the boy mom phenomenon. There is a lot of discussion about this topic, but also a lot of nuance here, so hang with me. Some of the things I'm going to say are probably going to make you mad, but I think it's a conversation worth having. So we're diving into that today. There's a whole lot for us to unpack here, so get a snack, get a drink, and settle in. Okay, before we get started, I want to be super clear from the jump that there is nothing inherently wrong with being a mom to boys, being a boy mom. I know that a lot of people find joy and also community in, like the collective joys and struggles of parenting children of varying genders. And I'm not here to tell you that you're not allowed to do that. This is not about that. I'm also not asserting that all people who just so happen to be moms to boys are this way. However, I think I would be remiss if we didn't address this phenomenon, because there's just a lot of troubling trends that go along with, like, especially #boymom on places like TikTok and Instagram. And so we're talking about that today because it's like an actual thing. There is a real term for this, and there's a lot of harmful consequences of behaving the way that these moms are behaving. So we're going to kind of break this down into sections. So let's talk about what the boy mom thing actually is. For those of you who are not aware, this is a pattern that happens most often, or a trend that happens most often with moms to boys, which is another caveat and disclaimer, by the way. This does happen with people of other varying gender situations, but the situation is essentially that a parent behaves inappropriately with a child in an emotional sense, and then sometimes films it and puts it on the internet. So this is kind of a shitty offshoot of like the family vlogging situation. If you don't know, by the way, I'm very much not a fucking fan of family vlogging channels. I'll put the link to that video up here because we've talked about it on the channel before. However, this is kind of an offshoot of that because, again, basically what we're seeing is an erosion of the appropriate boundaries between a parent and child, and a lot of that is also being glorified in this way, as if to say that it's like cute and sweet. Often oftentimes these are videos that are played with like some kind of romantic song underneath and this like poetic text and a filter over the top, and it's just all icky and weird fucking vibes. I'm going to show you examples as we move through today's video. The first one that I want to draw your attention to is one that got a lot of attention when this issue first kind of kicked off and gained more like public awareness. We're a little bit late to the jump here, but it's fine. So I'm going to show you that TikTok now. Really quick, the person who made this TikTok, Anna Ciccone, is one half of the Ciccone Jolie family vlogging channel. They have been the family vlogging channel that like exploits their kids' reviews for a really long time. So no surprises there that there's some problematic takes coming out of the family. But just so that everybody's aware, part of the reason that I'm showing you these TikToks is also because they've gained a lot of attention. I'm not in the business of like invading people's privacy. All the TikToks that I'm going to show you today are either from established influencers who've chosen to put themselves in the limelight or people who've gone viral. So we're going to talk about Anna Ciccone first.
I never thought that I would be that toxic boy mom. I love my 4 kids equally, but that last little boy, it's different. And now I feel like I'm having this existential crisis. Before I wouldn't be that mom, that toxic boy mom. He hits his sisters, he punches them. I'm like, maybe he's having a hard day. So when I think about my daughters getting married, I get excited, right? Wear their dresses, planning their weddings. When I think about my son's wedding, I want to cry. Boy moms, we've got to step up. We got to realize that we are the problem.
So this is what I'm talking about. It's sort of glamorized in this way. Like this video specifically is meant to paint this in a way as if it's funny and humorous, and like, first of all, it's fucking not. It's really weird. But there's a couple of things that I want to point out here. First of all is the rampant favoritism. This is a feature of this boy mom phenomenon where there's usually a favorite child, especially for moms who happen to be moms to children of varying genders. There's often this favoritism of the boys and this presentation of them as like the golden child and like they can do no wrong. I'm going to be super clear. I don't think we need to say this, and I thought we didn't need to say this, but letting your children get away with physically harming the other children is not okay. That's super fucking weird that you would like make a joke out of that. It's also really inappropriate and really fucking mean. The other common aspect of this toxic boy mom trend is the inappropriate involvement and like emotional attachment that these mothers experience to their son's tension, to their future, and especially like this seemingly competitive attitude towards your children's future romantic relationships. This idea that like thinking about what my daughters are going to look like, thinking about my daughter's weddings makes me happy, and thinking about my son's wedding makes me want to cry is really fucking inappropriate. And this is what I'm talking about, right? Like this inappropriate amount of investment and involvement and this kind of blurring of the lines that's happening here is why we're making this video. I generally speaking want to talk about the concepts of emotional incest, or covert incest is what it's also called, because a lot of people don't necessarily understand this phenomenon to be distinct from physical and sexual incest and like the inappropriate crossing of boundaries that happens between parents and children in a sexual and physical way. The assumption is usually that those things all happen all at the same time, or that they're mutually inclusive, and that's not necessarily true. It's entirely possible for emotional incest or covert incest to be occurring without any physical abuse taking place, but it is just as harmful, and it's really important for us to talk about. One last thing that I want to talk about as just like a general feature of the boy mom thing also is that there is usually this attitude that the children are responsible for the adult's well-being. This often looks like moms positioning their sons to be a confidant, to be a peer, and sometimes a lot of the verbiage that people use is moms raising sons that they wish to like be the husband that they never had. This is a very common feature of this issue, and it's really, really damaging. We're gonna kind of go through like a list basically of all of the fucked up things that can happen to your fucking kids when you're doing this to them, and I'm also gonna show you some examples as we do that. So let's get started with that. Okay, the first thing that I want to talk about that is a rampant feature of this weird phenomenon is when moms make their sons responsible for their past emotional wounds. This is something that's probably the most common feature of these TikToks and these posts and these videos that I've seen in doing research for this. RIP to my algorithm, by the way. You're welcome. YouTube and TikTok algorithm thinks that I am a conservative Christian fundamentalist who's obsessed with my son. So you're welcome for that. But this feature is again, it's very common in a lot of these videos. I'm going to show you some examples here in a second. But a lot of the subtext here is usually that it's the child's job to parent their parent. We talked about parentification on the channel before. I'll put that video up here. This is kind of like a shitty, like to the nth degree version of parentification, because essentially what happens happens in these TikToks. Let me show you one right now and then we'll talk about it. Let's watch this one first.
They say that if God gives you a son, it's because you deserve to know what true love is. He must have known what he was doing when he gave me to you.
Like fucking hello? Real quick, there's another one that's also relevant. For those of you who can't read that, by the way, it says, reasons I love being a boy mom, I will be his first true love. All of this is a very common thing, even outside of the like boy mom, family vlogging, influencer sphere of the internet. This is a thing that people say about their children, just like generally in like regular ass Facebook and Instagram posts. And I really want to encourage people to fucking stop this, right? First of all, if you've never experienced true love by the time that you have a child, that's morally neutral and fairly common. That's okay. That's not shameful or bad or wrong. And also, the vehicle through which you are going to achieve healing and progress around that issue is not by making your son your one true love. That's so fucking inappropriate. And I didn't think that this needed to be said, but apparently it does. No parent or child is ever going to be each other's one true love. That's fucking weird. That's not normal, right? When children are little and they don't understand the differences or like the norms of romantic relationships between people, it's common for kids to do the thing where they say like, I want to grow up and marry my mommy, or I want to, never gonna move away from home because I love you guys so much, right? And like, this is cute, right? It's part of like the childlike innocence of not really understanding what relationships are. But the work in being a healthy and safe parent is in reminding and encouraging your child that like, we love you and we love that you love us so much. And also, isn't it so exciting that one day you will have people in your life that you love just as much as us, maybe more than us. And that's something that like we want to be reinforcing that value in our kids rather than feeding into this, because it's just fucking plain unhealthy. And it's also weird. It's weird and gross. I just really want to underline the fact that this is not an appropriate norm to set up for kids, because again, not having experienced true love, morally neutral, that's totally fine. If your relationships up to this point have just been not satisfactory, there's grief work around that. It's difficult to do. And also, again, the work in resolving that is by finding true love, by finding connection, by finding safety in your romantic relationship with other adults. Because this is the other key part of this that's really important to honor here, is that besides the fact that it's quite literally incestuous, which is bad, like I don't think I need to justify or give a fucking reason why incest is bad, but it also robs kids of their ability to like effectively consent in this, right? Kids don't understand what informed consent is, and it's your job as an adult to teach them about that. And when you abuse your relationship as an authority figure in their life to force them to participate in this norm with you that is not appropriate, that is really gross, and that will also damage their development and their concept of relationships and their concept of self, you are being abusive to your child. The thing that I really want to drive home about this is that it's just not appropriate for parents to expect that their children will heal their wounds, right? We all, even if we're not parents, throughout the course of our lifetime, will be wounded, will develop hurt, will experience traumas. Again, morally neutral. I'm a therapist. I'm not going to shame anybody for experiencing trauma or having difficulties. But again, it's very important that we work through that with other adults who've consented to participate in that process and who are safe people for that. We're going to talk in detail later about the impacts of these norms on the children. But for what it's worth, this particular norm, this like making your kids responsible for your healing and like raising your children to be the man that you wish you were married to, things can oftentimes cause kids to, or kids can cause these kids to reject their own needs and to prioritize the needs of others, especially because they learn this message from a very young age that it's more important that my mom is happy than I'm happy, and also that I need to do everything that I can to keep her happy because I'm her only source of happiness. This is a really inappropriate norm to set up in relationships, and it can mean then that their attachment and their ability to have safe connection with other people as an adult is fundamentally hindered, and that's work that they'll likely have to do on themselves with a therapist to be able to find like a true feeling of safety and security in relationships, because you've robbed them of that in their childhood. For what it's worth, as an offshoot, I think there's an interesting commentary to be made here about the phenomenon of this existing within cis-het relationships. Don't get me wrong, I'm the last person on planet Earth to say that all cis-het relationships are bad or wrong, or that there's something inherently terrible about them, because that's not true. However, I think it is disingenuous to say that there is not a norm and a stereotype associated with these relationships, particularly amongst people who have repressed parts of themselves and their identity development for fear of being rejected or shamed. by conservative or Christian ideals, for example, and that manifesting in poor outcomes in these relationships. It's not uncommon necessarily for these very repressive, very conservative, very traditional cis-het relationships between a cis man and a cis woman to have an inequity in household labor, in emotional connection and maturity, and for these wives generally to be feeling neglected and not seen by their partners. But first of all, this is a systemic issue that needs to be addressed at a culture level. But second of all, if you're feeling that in your relationship, please know that you're very valid and you are allowed to feel that way. And the work to do in that is either with your partner by having some potentially very uncomfortable conversations about how this is not working for me, we need to figure out a workaround, and or I'm not choosing to be in relationship with people who don't make me feel seen. Using your child as a surrogate for the problems that exist in your relationship is never an appropriate solution. And while I can very much empathize with the difficulties that come along with being subjected to systemic oppressions and issues in your relationships, again, the solution is not to coerce a child who lacks the agency and autonomy to say no to heal your wounds for you. Okay, the second thing that I want to talk about is the reversal of traditional roles in the parent and child dynamic. For those of you who are not aware, there's like norms that are supposed to exist in terms of the roles that parents and children inhabit. Generally speaking, parents are supposed to be parents and children are supposed to be children. I think this is like a pretty well agreed upon dynamic, but again, a lot of this video is filled with stuff that I'm like, I didn't think anybody needed to say this out loud, but clearly it needs to be said. A lot of the dynamics that exist in this like sort of toxic boy-mom arrangement are what we talked about earlier a little bit, which is that the child ends up kind of parenting the adult. A lot of this looks like a lack of emotional maturity on behalf of the moms. I'm gonna show you a TikTok here in a second where mom is acting very childlike and also reinforcing this message that you will be punished for setting boundaries with me, and or I will guilt you for setting boundaries with me. This is kind of a hallmark of this arrangement. Also, if you notice this happening either in your own relationship with your children or in somebody that you love's relationship with their children, this is something to be aware of, because again, part of developing healthy relationships as an adult is feeling empowered and safe to set healthy boundaries around our time, our attention, our affection, our bodies, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of this dynamic reinforces this belief that I, as the mom, am the child who needs to be caretaken. And so therefore it is your job to attend to my emotional wants and needs first and foremost. And if there's leftover, then you can have that. And like most often, really, it's not even that. To be clear, a lot of this is sourced from TikTok because they're short and it's easier to make the point with these. So let me show you this and then we'll talk about it. Just bizarro behavior. This is what I'm referring to, right? I know, obviously, I think the comment section on this video is filled with a lot of like, it's a joke, but like, it's not though. Is it a joke? Because if it was a joke, he wouldn't have made it. And also like the fact that we're doing this, that this idea got pitched and we set up a tripod and lighting and we did all of this, we rehearsed this, indicates to me that this isn't just like a funny haha off the cuff joke. Like we planned this, and that's weird. This attitude that like I'm gonna guilt you, I'm gonna quite literally hang off of your leg, trying to make you feel guilty as though you're wounding me or betraying me, is a hallmark of this issue. The thing that I want to draw people's attention to here is that a lot of the subtext around this behavior is that you setting boundaries is a betrayal to me, right? We talked about this in the Duggar family video. I'll link that up here if you haven't watched that. But a lot of the enmeshment and like inappropriate merging of boundaries that happens here can cause kids to have a difficulty in advocating for themselves as adults. And the thing that really sucks about this is that in adult relationships, these kids will often be people pleasers. They'll struggle to even know what their own wants and needs are, let alone communicate them effectively to a partner. And this can lead to a lot of resentment. This can lead to a lot of lying, a lot of deception, a lot of like hiding, sometimes compulsive behaviors, and oftentimes a lot of resentment for the partner because they feel as though they're never allowed to advocate for themselves. They feel as though their wants and needs are never prioritized, and they feel like they're constantly put at the bottom of the heap. And a lot of this harkens back to this time in childhood where their wants and their needs and their emotional needs were neglected and not attended to. And that's the other thing about this that especially pushes my fucking buttons as a clinician, is that when parents do this, even if you are meaning it as a joke, like first of all, it's not funny, but second of all, essentially what you're doing is emotionally abandoning your child. This can lead to like very real abandonment issues as an adult. This can oftentimes look like a fear of intimacy or connection, and a difficulty with consistent long-term relationships because of this fear clear that like my needs are not going to be attended to. And I think a lot of people misunderstand this about trauma. We as a culture like to perpetuate this myth that trauma only looks like, you know, big events, things like war, natural disaster, being assaulted. And I want to be clear, those are very much traumatic, and that's a very real issue. And trauma, especially repeated childhood trauma, doesn't necessarily look like that, right? And so having a parent behave this way towards you in childhood is traumatic and will inform this view about yourself and about relationships and the world. And just because someone didn't explicitly say to you, your needs don't matter, my needs matter more than yours, doesn't mean that as a child you're not absorbing that value about relationships. A lot of what we learn about relationships and ourselves and the world is from our parents and our families in childhood, and a lot of it is taught through implication, right? Rarely, if ever, are we sitting down with our kids and having conversations about our overarching views about the world and our role within that, but more so we're absorbing that by watching people behave and learning from example and learning by how things are just structured and how things are in our family and in our home. And so setting up this norm as a thing that's like, first of all, normal, but second of all, funny is really, really inappropriate. And again, even if you think it's a joke, it's not going to be taken as a joke by your child's nervous system, because their fundamental desire to survive can't tell the difference between whether you're joking or not. If it's happening often enough, you're going to harm your child by doing this. Along with that, we've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but for the sake of being thorough, along with that is the boundary violations issue that obviously exists between parent and child in this dynamic. The attitude that you will be your child's everything is really inappropriate, right? I really want to discourage people from fucking platform this. It's not normal. It's also not true, right? We talked about this in the Duggar video, again, link up there. But the work in being a healthy and safe and effective parent is in allowing your children to develop into the person that they are, rather than trying to be the person or trying to force them to be the person that you think they should be. Ideally, healthy and, you know, quote unquote successful parenting looks like taking this sort of guiding role where we're allowing our child to discover genuinely, authentically who they are, what matters to them, where they want their life to go, what they want their relationships to look like, and how you fit into that, right? The expectation that you will be your child's first true love and their best friend and their whole world, and you'll always be a part of their life forever is, first of all, a fallacy. That's not actually true. But second of all, sets up a really inappropriate dynamic when we talk about boundaries. The truth is that it's important for kids to have some level of separation between parents and child, and also between their family of origin and themselves, right? The goal, again, of healthy parenting is to allow this person to become who they are and then eventually separate from their family of origin to become a distinct and separate entity. They're allowed and encouraged and empowered to make their own choices about their life's journey and their goals and their direction and all of those things. When we tell our kid that you are my everything, I am your everything, you're limiting their ability to do that. And a lot of this, again, is done through the covert use of guilt and shaming by saying, if you individuate from our family, that you're betraying me, which sucks. We've already talked about that. But also, again, this attitude that like, I will be everything to you and you will be everything to me is simply not true. And it's also just not how relationships work, right? For any of us who have friendships, romantic relationships, family relationships, acquaintances, whatever, we all know that all of those different types of relationships serve somewhat slightly different purposes, right? The emotional and sexual and romantic gratification and joy and connection and care and affection and compassion that I receive from my life partner is not the same kind of connection that I'm going to receive from my best friend or from my mom or from my coworkers. And that's for good reason. Being somebody's whole entire world and everything and always is not a healthy dynamic to set up, not only because that's not just how it doesn't fucking work that way, but also because it's literally impossible. Like, no one can do that. That's a Herculean feat and you're setting yourselves up for failure. So, like, on all accounts, I really want to discourage people from doing this. I'm going to show you a TikTok right now. We'll talk a little bit about it after this is done.
You'll be his first kiss, his first love, his first friend. You are his mom, and he is your whole world. He's your little boy.
No, this is inappropriate. Along with this, I want to point out that it's not healthy for parents to view their children in any capacity, regardless of the gender makeup or orientation here. It's not healthy for any parent to view any of their children as their whole world. The truth is that parenting is a part of our identity, oftentimes a large part, especially when children are small, because they're very demanding. That's normal, that's okay. And it's also really gratifying for a lot of people to have that be a large part of their identity. And you're a person, right? You're a whole ding-dang complex person who deserves to have hobbies and interests and relationships and parts of your personhood that aren't being swallowed whole by parenting. I want to super validate that parenting can feel like it swallows you whole sometimes, and a lot of people do oftentimes have to do work, grief work, growth work after children are old enough to kind of individuate and separate a little bit, about discovering their own identity, about discovering their relationships again. There's lots of normal stuff that happens there, and that's very okay. And also, I really want to encourage people to push back on this rhetoric that being a parent is your whole entire identity, because that's not true, and it's also not healthy, not only for you, but also for your kids. Again, this places a really disproportionate burden on the shoulders of your children to be everything to you, and that's not fair to them. Their role in life is not to please you or to give you something to live for, but to be cared for and nurtured by you. You brought them here, or you agreed to care for them in some form or fashion, and your job, again, is to be a healthy and safe parent for them, and ultimately give them like a safe landing place to like lift off and like move on to other things. Parenting should not be your whole life for your whole life. The other thing that I want to talk about in regards to this like inappropriate boundary thing is the like daughter-in-law thing that seems to come up with this a lot. I don't think I was able to save the TikTok that I saw of this. I don't think I could find it at the time that we're recording this, but there was a TikTok of a mom saying that I'm raising my sons to love me more so that when they grow up that they don't go to their daughter-in-law's house for Christmas. And this is like a lot of the rhetoric that's used in these spaces. I'm gonna show you a TikTok right now. There probably won't be any audio on it because I think the song will get copyrighted, probably on a few of these actually. But this is like very much the general theme here. So let me show you this and then we'll talk about it. It actually gives me chills, like how creepy and unnerving this is. This is not cute. I want to be super fucking clear. It's weird. No parent should have an attachment like this to their children. It's just not appropriate. But anyways, back to the daughter-in-law thing. This is a common theme in this like toxic boy mom issue. We talked about this with the Anna Ciccone TikTok also. The thing that I want to point out about this is, again, like the individuation and separating from family of origin is very important. We've already talked about this. But along with this, that this oftentimes creates a power struggle between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law that's not fun for anyone. And I just really think it's important to point this out because regardless of like how we end up in this situation, the end result is oftentimes that the son or the man in this situation, if they're an adult with a adult partner, hopefully, ends up feeling ripped in half, right? Especially because these dynamics oftentimes have existed for the child's entire life, and so there is a sense of loyalty and a sense of enmeshment, a feeling of like, if my mom's feelings are hurt, then my feelings are hurt, and then feeling ripped in half by a life partner, which is very normal for a life partner to want to experience attention, affection, compassion, priority even over their partner's mother, and the mother kind of ripping this person in half. It's very, very overwhelming, and ultimately the end result of this is the child, the boy in this situation, man, I guess, whatever, you get it, feeling as though there's no winning. And again, I just really want to point this out because this power struggle often is so very ego-driven, and it also comes from the scarcity mindset. Again, we already talked about the problematic norms that exist in some cishet relationships, and again, if you're feeling unsatisfied, uncared for by your life partner, it's not appropriate for you to seek that care and compassion from your son. And so setting up this power dynamic where we're mean and rude and passive aggressive to your daughter-in-law, usually, obviously it does hurt the daughter-in-law's feelings. I'm sure people are people and that's hurtful, but oftentimes, more often than not, what you're doing is hurting your son, actually. And because of this very selfish pursuit of needing to be taken care of, when ultimately you would be much better off by seeking the help of a licensed professional clinician to help you work through whatever it is that's happening for you to cause you to feel drawn to this dynamic. For what it's worth, this can also result in relational issues later in life if the child does successfully partner, we have the power struggle thing like you talked about, but if they don't manage to successfully partner to another person, this can mean then that they struggle to find a connection or community because of this, right? Because you've hindered their ability to feel safe, to feel allowed, to connect effectively, to attach to other people. And like, first of all, that's your fault. That's really shitty and you shouldn't do that to your kid. But second of all, this then presents a problem with like, what do we do now, right? Like you robbed your child of the ability to feel safe, to connect to other people. And so now they spend the duration of their life alone because they're attending to you. Like there's no orientation of this situation that's safe or that's compassionate or kind to your child. And like generally speaking, again, 0 out of 10, don't fucking recommend. I think we've also kind of touched on this already, but I do really want to draw attention to the like romantic boundary blurring that happens here. It is very common for this to exist where the parent in this arrangement makes their child responsible for these really heavy emotional disclosures. Oftentimes it's a divulging of being unhappy in their relationship, these deep traumas or like big feelings that adults are having that they then sort of place in this child's lap. And regardless of how old the child is, I do want to be super clear that this is inappropriate. I think it goes without saying that when they're little, this is really inappropriate. But even if your child is a teenager or an adolescent or young adult, this is still very inappropriate, not only because it's not their burden to bear and this is not something that they consented to participate in, but also because it's just developmentally inappropriate. Even teenagers and young adults are not equipped to deal with the deep-seated emotional struggles of their parents because the role between parent and child is not meant to be as like a client or a therapist and a client, right? Like that's not appropriate, and it really will do a number on your kid's sense of attachment, not only to you, but again, to other people, to have this heavy emotional disclosure dropped in their lap when they don't have the skills or the autonomy or the agency to really effectively do anything about it. Essentially, you're forcing your kid to sit with this trauma and this anxiety and this fear, and then to do nothing with it. They're stuck with it, they can't fix it, they feel very overwhelmed by this, and you're basically just emotionally dumping all of this stuff in your kid's lap and forcing them to sit with that forevermore until they develop into adults and find the resources to then offload that, which is, again, not a kind or compassionate or safe thing to do as a parent. The last thing that I want to talk about in regards to the boy mom thing is the favoritism that happens. We touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but the favoritism that often exists in these families is really a problem, not only for the other kids, but also for the child that's being upheld as the golden child. I could make a whole video about family dynamics and family roles. If you guys want me to talk about that, I can do that. But for the sake of this video being somewhat succinct, the golden child dynamic is really, really harmful because first of all, it teaches all of your other kids that they're less than, that they're not good, that they're a problem, that they are less worthy of love, and that really does a number on their self-esteem. But this also is problematic for the golden child, the one that's being held up as like the perfect example, because it puts a lot of pressure on them to like never fail, always be good, never hurt anyone's feelings, always be perfect, never let anyone down. And the moment that you expose yourself as being fundamentally human, like the fucking rest of us, I will revoke my love and compassion from you for doing that. This is a crushing weight to place on a child. And again, goes without saying, this is going to have a ripple effect into their relationships in their adult life, even their relationship with themselves. This is a really heavy self-esteem wound to carry around, feeling as though your sense of worthiness and love in relationships is conditional upon you never hurting anyone's feelings and always being good and never letting anyone down. And it teaches children that love as a concept is dependent upon them being worthy enough for it, which is, I think it goes without saying that that's fucking problematic. As an addendum to the end of this video, I also want to point out this does happen with girl dads. I think we are seeing a little bit less of this representation on social media, likely because men don't use social media in the way that women do. And so I think it's really important to remember that, because just because we're not seeing it necessarily represented as rampantly on social media does not mean that it's not happening. The very first example that came to mind for me when I was doing this video is the like ownership over my daughter's genitals thing that happens a lot. The like, baby onesies with things like my dad owns a shotgun, like that are being sold as if they're cute or funny, and actually it's just really fucking weird, right? So I want to recap a little bit of that and talk about how that might look when, again, the gender orientation is like shifted a little bit, but it does go without saying that all the shit that we already talked about does go, it's the same, regardless of whether the child is a boy or a girl or assigned male or female at birth. You get it. Okay, I have a couple of TikToks that I want to show you as Exhibit A, so I'm gonna play you those and then we'll talk about it.
I want to crash my car into a telephone pole, standing on the gas with no seatbelt on. I can't even mix it, absolutely.
For those of you who can't read this, it says, "This is how my husband acts when he realizes someday my daughter will rely on another man." hello? Like, again, there's a lot to unpack in regards to this. First of all, if men are aware that other men are problematic and unsafe fucking people, why are you not participating in challenging these patriarchal and misogynistic beliefs that endanger women and femme and AFAB people? Why? Like, what the fuck? That's fucking weird. You should not have to have a daughter or a wife or an aunt or a cousin that you really care about in order to care about the safety of people who are affected by misogyny. And if it does require you to have skin in the game in terms of like knowing someone specifically in order to care about a cause, then you don't actually care about the cause and you're also just fucking selfish. So that sucks. But besides this, I do just really want to highlight again the fact that there is an inappropriate and enmeshed attachment here between a parent and a child that lends itself to this really problematic dynamic wherein, especially with the girl and or the girl dad thing, where like I have to be the one who protects my daughter from all of the dangers of the world and who will prevent her from being taken advantage of by a man. And like, again, first of all, if you only care about misogyny as it relates to the people that you know, that sucks. But on top of that, oh, I lost my train of thought. Bathroom. But on top of that, I think it's important to highlight that as parents, our work is in teaching and, you know, educating children about how to care for, how to advocate for, how to empower themselves, so that we as adults, when they become adults, don't have to constantly be looking over their shoulder to make sure that they're not making the wrong decision, that you're not doing the wrong thing, that you're not in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. If you have done your job successfully as a parent, your child will be able to advocate for themselves, to protect themselves, to make informed and educated and conscientious decisions about their relationships, their time, their attention, their affection, their community, etc., etc. And if you are positioning yourself as the authority figure who will always have to gatekeep your child's interaction with the rest of the world for the rest of your life, not only are you a bad fucking parent, but you're also a busybody that's probably going to damage the relationship between you and your child, because ultimately people as like a concept, I guess, want to be independent. We want to be autonomous. We want to feel as though we are trusted by the folks that we're in relationship with. And so, like, again, generally speaking, 0 out of 10, none of this is going to lend itself to positive outcomes later in adulthood. And especially with this arrangement, it also prioritizes or centers the experiences of men, which will do a number on your daughter's self-esteem, forcing her to again and again center the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings of men in her life, will ultimately place her in a position of more danger than if you processed all of your own problematic baggage and allowed her to make her own decisions about her life as an adult, and also provided her with the tools and the guidance and the training to do all of that effectively as she ages. There's a couple more TikToks that I want to play with you, so I'm going to play you 2 back to back and then we'll talk about those. I'm going to read you this one as we go, actually. This says, me to my daughter, are you at your boyfriend's house again? Her, yeah, we are alone in his room. Me, you better not be. Her, we are making out. Me, what? Her, Dad, I am in my room. I truly do not understand what the fucking purpose of this TikTok is, but I do just want to draw attention to the fact that a whole ass grown adult man sat down again with his phone, set up a tripod or propped his phone up on something, made sure that the lighting was good, wrote a little script for this video, pressed record, and then made this whole video where we're fantasizing about your ability to exert your control over your daughter's autonomy and relationships and ultimately her genitals. Wow, like that's super fucking weird. I think this is a through line in these dynamics, regardless of, again, what the gender makeup is here. This fantasizing that we're doing about our child and their genitals and their future sexual relationships